Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 51 on the calendar in the matter of Beck versus Isagire. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Beck, are you still a tenant of the defendants?
No, Your Honor.
You moved out?
I still reside at that residence, but she has since sold the building, so she's no longer my landlord.
Okay. Your complaint is that while the defendant was your landlord, she caused you to become ill as a result of spraying pesticides in your apartment, and you want to be reimbursed for the nights that you had to stay out at a hotel and for thousands of dollars in pain and suffering. Now, when was this pesticide spraying incident?
April 1st of 2001.
And what were they spraying for?
Termites.
Had you seen termites?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you notified that they would be spraying?
Verbally, yes.
So what's the problem?
They had just treated my apartment 6 to 8 weeks before that, going through the exact same procedure, spraying the interior of my apartment, which is not the proper procedure, as I've got evidence to prove here. The proper procedure is actually to drill holes in the slabs of the flooring or in the walls so you can actually get to the wood or underneath, because they were subterranean termites. The termites lived in the ground.
All right.
That's where they lived, but they were spraying the interior of my apartment twice in a 2-month period.
All right, 6 to 8 weeks before the incident that caused you difficulty, they sprayed once. Is that right?
Yes.
They sprayed once. And you remained in the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And when were you notified that they were going to spray again?
A few days before they came and
So what
sprayed
happened?
on April 1st.
Fine. So what happened? You notified that they were going to come in again.
I was notified that they were going to come in again, and I told her verbally, under no circumstances do I wish for you to spray the interior of my apartment. If you're going to do it, please follow the proper procedures the way it was done a year ago. Drill the holes, get to the termites. I'm giving you access to my apartment so that you can get to the termites, not to spray the interior. There's no need. I'm still smelling the pesticides. I don't need to go through this again. I'm still getting migraines from the last time.
So what happened?
I went to work, came home, found out that she had hired the pesticide guy, and she was there, and he did spray the interior of my apartment, spilled it on my kitchen floor. It had been wiped up. I have cats. They had walked through it. I walked in, and it was overwhelming, and I hadn't even gathered any materials because I was under the impression that she was going to respect my wishes and not spray the interior again, since that doesn't even take care of the termites anyway.
All right. Now, since April 1st of '01, have you seen evidence of termites in your apartment?
They're back, yes.
They're back.
Yes.
When did they come back?
A month ago.
So it's been almost a year.
Yes, they come. This is their breeding season,
right
about now. They come back. Seems to be the same time every year to come out and swarm so that they can mate and become termites. I'm learning way too much about termites.
Okay. Now, according to your complaint, the smell was overwhelming and you had to leave your apartment. Where did you go?
The Best Western hotel room. It's approximately about 3 or 4 blocks from my home.
Okay, and how many nights did you stay there?
2.
You have the receipts?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
You stay over there.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I also needed to purchase HEPA filters to take the pesticide out of the air that I was breathing because I was getting so many migraines. It was suggested by my neurologist.
Why don't you move?
I couldn't afford to. My rent is rent controlled and only $577 a month. Mm-hmm. And for Los Angeles, a good area, that's extremely good for a 1-bedroom.
So that's pretty good rent, even though the place has termites once a year, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so other than the $185.26 that you had to pay in a hotel room because of this smell of pesticides, what do you think that the defendant is responsible for?
I think that she was negligent in hiring an unlicensed pesticide person to come in and spray the interior of my apartment. He is unlicensed, as I have also in that pile is evidence to prove that. An agricultural commission did a report on it. He is an unlicensed contractor, and he had been also previously written up in 1994 for doing the exact same thing, spraying without a license and also spraying with restricted materials. I have no idea what I was exposed to. I have no idea whether or not he followed. I know the procedures that he followed were incorrect.
How do you know he was unlicensed? Give me the tab on here.
Purple. I'm sorry, I color-coded it to make it a little easier for you to find.
Purple
and
what?
that would be purple A1.
What was the name of the person that you hired? Frigg?
On the first page of that, it
shh,
says...
don't interrupt. I'm not speaking to you now.
Sorry.
Okay. How many years did you own this building?
I was never actually the owner. My mother was the owner. My parents owned the building for approximately 25 years.
Did you manage the building?
The only time I managed it, if you could call it that, was at the very end. My mother was very ill and she was unable to handle Miss Beck's harassment and complaints, and so I was handling the building at that time for her.
This exterminator that you hired is not licensed.
At the time, I believed that he was. I asked him if he was bonded and licensed. He said yes.
Did you ask to see his credentials?
I asked what his license number was, and he gave me a number. He had been in the business for 45 years and had worked for my mother for 10. And when Miss Beck needed...
So is what you're telling me that this person was the same person who sprayed previously for you? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes.
Miss Beck, you said that the apartment had been sprayed previously. This Craig, he is the one who sprayed previously, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many times had he sprayed the apartment before?
I'm not really sure. He had been doing it
For years.
for years.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I
Listen to me.
trusted her, Your Honor, that
Oh,
it was
well,
okay to be in that. I stayed there too.
I want you to be
occasions.
smarter. I don't want you to trust anybody. I want you to trust your own instincts, madam.
And later today,
Your Honor, we had a deal. We had
Yeah?
a deal. I was to learn something. I paid
And you
for
didn't learn
stuff.
anything. Whose fault is that? You went back to work. That is not a loan, Mr. Andre. That's not a loan.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melissa Beck says former landlord Kathy Izaguirre poisoned her when she sprayed for termites.
Listen, Miss Beck, you don't make a big deal over things that aren't a big deal. Do you understand? You live in a rent-controlled building, which is a very old building. You live there because the rent is cheap, and that doesn't mean that you have to be subjected to things that are terrible. Your landlord can't do terrible things to you, but there are termites, and termites have to be eradicated. I don't think that the defendant did anything terrible to you. I certainly don't think it's worth thousands of dollars. I think that she has to compensate you for the 2 nights that you spent in a hotel because you were unable to use your apartment. I assume you paid your rent on time.
Can I have proof? Also showing what the proper procedures are
I
to
don't
follow
care.
when you're...
Listen to me. I don't care what the proper procedures are, madam. I'm telling you that the termites that you complained
But you
of-
don't spray the baseboards of an apartment and let it just sit there for months. There's nowhere for it to go. It was
That-
painted over since the 1950s.
Listen to me. Life is full of choices. The choice that you made to leave the apartment for 2 days because you couldn't stand the smell was a good choice. She has to compensate you for that choice because she was quiet. Because she was responsible, even if she used someone who had a degree from Harvard, you might have had a reaction from the pesticides that were used. However, your apartment was rendered, through no fault of your own, uninhabitable for 2 nights. Now, if what you're saying, Miss Beck, is that it continues to be uninhabitable, or for months was uninhabitable, or for weeks, or for periods of time that you got headaches and migraines, etc., move! Nobody is holding you in this apartment. If you want to live in an inexpensive, rent-controlled building, which is old, there are some things that you have to tolerate. And I'm telling you, 2 nights lodging, she's responsible for.
But
thousands for your headache, she is not. Judgment for the placement. Listen to me.
I trusted her, Your Honor, that
Oh,
it
well,
was okay to be in that. I stayed there too.
I want you to be smarter. I don't want you to trust anybody. I want you to trust your own instincts, madam. $185. 2
What
nights at
about
the Best
the
Western.
interest and the year that she
What
didn't
about
pay
it?
me?
What
I
about
demanded it. It's
Deal
been a
with
year.
it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $185. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We have a police report of an occasion when she attacked another tenant, overturned her furniture, and bit and scratched the other tenant.
I never bit anybody. I never scratched anybody.
There have been times when, after midnight, she's called my home screaming obscenities.
I did have problems with her with noise on one particular occasion, and she was outside.
I just hope that I never have to have another interaction with Melissa Beck again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Andres versus Brazil. Step forward, please.
Brian Andres is suing his ex-fiancée, sales rep Trisha Brazil, for an unpaid loan for office equipment. Trisha is countersuing for the return of personal property, unpaid rent, and harassment.
All right, Mr. Andres, your lawsuit says that the defendant, with whom you lived and you have a child with, owes you money for a loan for office equipment that allowed her to work in the house.
Correct.
Equipment that you purchased, she used, when you separated, she took, and you want her to pay for it.
Correct.
The defendant says there was never a discussion of a loan for this office equipment. It was a way of her earning a living while you were together because you were incapacitated for a period of time. You were not working. She had to support both you and your son that you share. She has a counterclaim, which is a whole bunch of nonsense, and Miss Brazil, let me deal with it right now, because I want to keep this case as clean as possible. You say that he took a camcorder of yours, that he owes you for rent during the time that he was incapacitated last year or the year before, that he said he would pay you for, and a chair, okay? That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you that I think that's all a bunch of nonsense, and you never would have filed a counterclaim had he not sued you for this office equipment.
That's true. I'm desired to be in court, and I would have never. But
Absolutely right.
But part of what he's suing me for is the camcorder. Part of the.
I'm not interested. So let's understand each other. This isn't a tit for tat. He has a lawsuit. I'm going to get to his lawsuit. And I'm not worried about your chair and your camcorder and this old rent bill that he was supposed to pay you if he ever got better.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Andres says ex-fiancée Trisha Brazil owes for an unpaid loan for office equipment.
That was your arrangement. You were a family, despite the fact that you didn't have a marriage license. You were operating as a family. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And at a time when you were injured, you discussed with the woman you were living with, the mother of your child, working from home. Is that
Correct.
right? Now, take it from there.
It wasn't so much her simply working from home. She was working for a company and decided that she could work from home, be close with the baby, and that's what we had talked. That's how the whole story got started. I looked at it. I had a large amount of money coming in from my 401k, and I said, well, we could do this. Since I am on disability, I had a very bad broken leg. What I was going to be able to do work-wise was really in question. I did warehouse work, and I taught karate on the side.
You had a very bad broken leg, and
Exactly.
you were incapacitated. Right, and you had
So
a baby home.
this wasn't simply an opportunity for her to work from home. The deal was she was going to work from home while I was on disability. She was going to teach me kind of tools of the trade so I could learn something new, so I'd have something to fall back on.
What kind of work were you doing?
I'm in marketing. I do graphic design work.
And you could do that on your computer at home?
Yes.
Okay, fine. When you broke your leg, is that right?
Correct.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes.
How long were you in the hospital?
Maybe 4 days, and I had to go to a rehabilitation hospital for another month.
And then you came home?
No.
And then where did you go?
I had to go to my mother's house. She has a 2-story home, and the bathrooms are upstairs. My mom's house was...
More convenient. So you stayed
Correct.
with your mom for how long?
Probably 2 to 3 months. And then I would go over to Trisha's house. I would stay the night with her. This is all when she was still pregnant with our child. And during the day when she went to work, she would drop me off back at my mother's house so I could...
Just she took care of you. You went over there, she picked you up, she took you back. Now, after the baby was born, where did you live?
After the baby was born, I lived with Trisha.
Moved into her house?
Correct.
Okay. Were you ambulatory at that point?
Yeah, with a crutch.
With crutches?
A crutch, eventually a cane, yeah.
Okay, with crutches. Now, the baby was born at that time.
In January, correct.
Who took care of the baby?
I did.
With your crutches?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Good for you. Okay, so explain this loan to me. So now I've got office equipment that she was going to work from out of the house. How did the loan come about, Mr. Andres?
Our deal was she wanted to work from home. I was in a position where I can make that possible. And in return, I wanted to gain some type of knowledge from this. So that
Good. So, keep
it
going.
never happened. Time went on. She continued to use the equipment that I bought for her job that she was at. It never happened. In September, I ended up going back to work for a warehouse in our area. She kept working where she was at, eventually left, and became self-employed.
I don't see a loan, sir.
I bought the stuff, Your Honor. I have the copy of the cashier.
So what?
That's the loan.
That's not a loan. That's not a loan, Mr. Andres. Where do you get a loan from that? You had a family. The family had to be supported. Needed, I gather, 2 people, your disability and her work to do it. You said, great, you work from the house. I'm going to buy this equipment so you can work from the house. You'll teach me. Period. End of discussion. It didn't become a loan until you separated.
Your Honor, we had a deal. Deal. We had a deal. I was to learn something. I paid
And you
for
didn't
my
learn
stuff.
anything. Whose fault is that? You went back to work. That is not a loan, Mr. Andres. That's not a loan. That's living together and planning a future that doesn't work out. That's not a loan. I understand from Miss Brazil, whose counterclaim I'm not even thinking about. Do you understand that?
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you. During what year do you claim that he owes you for rent?
The year of 2000, and then he paid rent intermittently during 2000 and part of 2001.
Okay, it's old, that's why. Because 2 years later, you don't wake up and say, he owes me for rent in 2000. Because I know and you know that your counterclaim is nonsense. That you would never be here but for the fact of this nonsense about this equipment. Now, what I want to know is, she says that you didn't even bring up the issue of this equipment again until after she took you to court for child support.
That is not true.
Now, but one thing that amazed me, and I just want to find out whether I read it wrong. Are you currently under a child support order, Mr. Andres?
Yes, I am.
What is that order?
It's $38 a month.
That's what I read, $38 a month. What country do you live in?
The United States.
What state in this country?
California.
What county?
Stanislaus County.
What kind of work do you do?
Right now I'm not working. That's why it's $38 a month.
Why are you not working?
I've been looking for work, Your Honor.
Who's supporting you?
I'm staying at my mother's house.
That's nice. Collect cans, sir. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 130 on the calendar in the matter of Gary St. Clair versus Roberts Bolin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
John gave Aaron the keys to his car, which is your car.
Our car.
How old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
So it's your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Aaron trashed the car. You want Aaron's mom to pay for the trashed car.
Yes, ma'am.
Aaron's mom says John should never have given him the keys to the car, that he knew he didn't have a driver's license. Therefore, you are responsible. And she is counterclaiming because Aaron got a whole bunch of tickets and fines as a result of driving this car without a license. And she is counterclaiming for the cost of those tickets, etc. Is that right?
Correct.
And just so that I understand, you believe that your son has no responsibility with regard to this accident, that it's totally Aaron's fault, and you believe that the accident is totally John's fault for giving him the keys to the car, and that they actually should pay you for the cost that you had to absorb for the tickets that your son got. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. I think they're both responsible.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, if you think they're both responsible, how could you be counterclaiming?
Because I think that John is just equally as responsible as Aaron is for the tickets that Aaron incurred. If he hadn't given Aaron the keys to the car, it wouldn't have happened.
Okay. Tell me the circumstances surrounding John, you getting giving the keys to Aaron?
Well, what happened was the defendant and I we had a couple friends over at another friend's house. We had gone to buy some alcohol earlier that evening. We had the plaintiff's sister's roommate buy it.
And you got drunk?
Yes.
Now, Aaron, you acknowledge that John was drunk. Is that right? Say that in your papers.
Earlier that night.
He was drunk
Yeah.
and sick. You said he got sick.
Yes.
Were you drinking?
I had a shot.
A shot of what?
Vodka.
Well, you say you were sober. Were you sober?
Yes.
And he was drunk.
Around midnight.
Don't try to be smart with me, Aaron. I just want to explain that to you. Do not be smart with me. What time did you get the keys to the car?
It was around 3 o'clock.
Where was John sitting, standing, or lying when you got the keys to the car?
We were upstairs.
Upstairs where?
I was using the bathroom when my friend Brandon asked him if I could drive his car to the gas station.
Where was he?
He was standing outside the bathroom with Brandon.
So you didn't ask him for the keys.
No.
Some third party did.
Yes.
Now, why did you take the keys to the car if you have no driver's license?
Because I wanted to drive to the gas station.
Well, that was wrong.
I know this.
That was wrong. You took the keys to the car. You had no driver's license. You had no right to be driving a car. You had some alcohol to drink. So why did you take the keys? Why did you get behind the wheel of a car? Hama?
I don't really know.
Now, what happened when you got into the car?
I drove the car.
What happened?
Well, when the accident happened,
Yeah.
well, we were driving down the street, and he couldn't get the CD out of the CD player. So I bent over, and I was messing with the CD player. And I looked back up, and I noticed that it went from 2 lanes down to 1 lane. So I swerved over, and I over-swerved, so I went to swerve back, and the car skidded out of control.
So let's see what you did, Aaron. You took keys to a car to drive it despite the fact that you didn't have a license. You had alcohol to drink, and I would make a good wager that you had more than 1 shot of vodka that night. Got behind the wheel of the car. You weren't paying attention to what you were doing. You were fidgeting around with a CD because you wanted to play music, right? You weren't looking where you were going, and you got into an accident, right?
Right.
Okay. Now we got the fault on your side. Now let's hear from you, John. Tell me about how Aaron got the keys to the car.
Well, first of all, we weren't upstairs, and he wasn't going to the bathroom. I had been drinking really heavily. I probably had close to maybe 7 or 8 shots and a few
Wrong.
beers.
And that was what?
It was wrong.
Right.
And I was laying down on our friend's guest bed at the house we were staying at, drinking and everything. And him and another friend of mine, the plaintiff, had came and asked me for the keys. I was very incoherent. They had said, John, we're going to go a couple blocks away to a Quick Trip, get some Coca-Cola. I'm like, okay, be back. But be back in 10 minutes.
Why did you give him the keys to the car? You knew he didn't have a license?
I did not know he had a license.
That he didn't have a license?
I didn't know that he did not have a license.
Earlier that night, he let me drive his car, and I told him I did not have a driver's license.
Well, tell me about that. When earlier did you drive
It was
the
around
car?
like 6 o'clock.
Well,
He
now I
let me
want you to
drive his
tell me
car.
about that earlier incident. Tell me about it.
He let me take his car for...
No. Tell me where you were, what you were doing, and the exact conversation when you asked him for the car to borrow the car.
I was using the bathroom upstairs, and when we asked him...
No, earlier.
No, don't help him out. He's in the bathroom a lot. Earlier that evening, about 6 o'clock, you were in the bathroom.
No, not that time.
I'm talking about that time.
Well, I didn't know that. But that time, I don't remember where we
You
were.
remember. Start remembering.
I don't remember.
Remember. I'm telling you to remember. If you don't remember, then how do you remember, sir, that you said to him, I don't have a license, but can I have your car
I wasn't
anyway?
the only one that said it to him.
What?
I wasn't the only one that said it to him that
I
night.
want to hear what you told him.
I already told you.
No, you didn't tell me how you got the keys to his car the first time, sir.
I don't remember why I was driving the car the first time. But I did.
Did he drive your car before?
No.
He doesn't remember. He doesn't remember it didn't happen. Neither did it happen that he told you that he didn't have a license. How old are you?
17.
Can I see the damage done to the car, please?
Pictures? What
Yeah.
a police report.
A little bit of everything.
Here, I'm sorry.
Hit and run? You mean after you had the accident you took off?
I walked down to the gas station. The car was locked.
And running, according to the police. So you locked the car running.
When we hit the curb, the car tipped over on its side. We climbed out the top. We tipped it back over. It was still in gear, so the doors automatically locked on it. We could not get back inside.
Well, the police officer certainly smelled alcohol on you. And you were going very fast, according to the skid marks. Much faster than the 40 or 50 that you told the policeman you were going.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They were all drinking. Your son is 17 years old. He had no right to be drinking and drunk.
And later today,
my daughter's only 2 years old. She was abusing my child, and I wasn't going to let my child stay there and be abused.
She said, call your husband, call your husband. She think I was calling him. I was really calling the cops.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old John Geary says former friend, 17-year-old Aaron Roberts, drove his car drunk and wrecked it. Aaron's mom says John gave him the keys.
Your Honor, a lot of the damage was underneath the vehicle, which we could not get pictures of because of the semen underneath.
Mm-hmm. Can I see your estimates, please? What year car is this?
93.
Was it fixed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me tell you what my ruling is. Let me address the counterclaim first. Your counterclaim is dismissed in its entirety. As outlined to you earlier, your son did all the wrong things. He's 17 years old. He was drinking. He took a car. He should not have taken the car. He had no license. He was inattentive in driving that car. He was speeding. He had an accident. His fault. He pays the tickets. He pays the fine and gets a suspension on whatever license he might get in the future. I'm sure he's not going to get a license when he wants to, and that's just ducky with me. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Now let's go to your claim. You're going to get something, but not all of it. Your son is 17 years old. He had no right to be drinking and drunk. He lent the keys to his car to someone else who he also knew had been drinking, because that's what they were doing all night. They were all drinking. So if he had been not doing the wrong thing as an underage drinker, this whole accident wouldn't have happened. It's more his fault than his fault. But he has a certain responsibility. When you give someone a car, that person has to have total responsibility. If he had driven the car home and it had a terrible accident and someone would have been killed, he would have spent some time in jail. Good amount of time. Well, he knew that he had been drinking, because that's what they were all doing there that night.
I never saw him take a drink, Your Honor.
You don't have to see him take a drink, sir. That's what everybody was doing at the party or whatever gathering you were having. You'd been drinking all night. You didn't have to see him. You weren't aware enough to say to him, have you been drinking at all before I give you the keys to the car, whether you knew he had a license or not? Certainly, if you hadn't been drinking, you would have noticed that he had alcohol all over his breath because the police officer noticed it. You were in no condition to notice it. But you have a certain responsibility. It cost your mother $4,276 to fix this car. And I'm issuing a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,200. The rest of it, I suggest you work off and pay back your mother. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Excuse you may step out.
He told me he'd been in an accident.
That's something a mother never wants to hear.
They both were guilty. They both did wrong.
4:30 on a Sunday morning. Do you know where your son is?
And now the next case.
Party's on Walker versus Demby. Step forward, please.
24-year-old certified nursing assistant Latoya Walker is suing the mother of her husband's daughter, caregiver Teresa Demby, for kicking in her screen door. Teresa says she didn't do it.
Miss Walker, it is your claim that the defendant kicked in your screen door. You wanted to pay for the damage.
Yes.
Defendant says it wasn't me. You probably did it yourself. How do you know her?
My husband has a baby by her.
Your husband. This is the husband. How long have you been married?
Maybe a couple months. We got married in March.
How old is the baby?
She's 3 now. She just had a birthday.
Who does the child live with?
Her mother.
She always lived with her mother?
No. She just got her on the 24th of May.
Prior to the 24th of May, who was she living with?
Me and him.
How long had she been living with the two of you?
Since she was 7 months.
So you were in court over a custody case?
They were.
They were. And ultimately, your daughter came to live with you.
Yes, ma'am.
father have visitation rights with the child?
No, not by the courts or anything. It's just that if he calls sometime, which he doesn't really, to see
So
her.
he doesn't have a visitation order?
No.
When did this door incident take place?
On April 24th of this year.
At that time, you were involved in the court case, is that right?
I had put in a motion then. A motion was put in.
So the answer is yes,
Yes.
you were involved in court. And the child was living with you.
Yes.
So tell me what happened.
So she called that morning and she asked me, was Shaniqua there? I told her no. So she found out I was lying because the baby was there.
Why did you lie to her?
Because she hasn't been coming to get her for her weekends, and I just felt that I didn't want her to, I don't think that she should have seen her. We always get her ready to go with her mom. She'll never show up when she's supposed to. When she do show up, she's late. She bring her back late.
So you lied to her and told her that the
Yeah,
baby
I told her
was...
that the baby was at her grandfather's house, her great-grandfather's house.
What happened next?
So she figured out that I was lying because I guess she went to the great-grandfather's house and she called me and she asked me did I have a problem with her. And I said no, but I got a problem the way you treat Shaniqua. And she said, what you mean you got a problem with? She was like, wait a minute, I'll be right over.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. LaToya Walker says her husband's ex-girlfriend, Teresa Demby, kicked in her screen door. Teresa says LaToya lied about the whereabouts of her child.
Go ahead.
So she came over, we exchanged words, you know.
Where was she and where were you when you exchanged words?
At my door, because my screen door don't have the part where you could talk through. It's just like the glass up top. So I had to open it a little bit just to even to talk to her.
So?
Then she started calling my husband names, a liar, and, you know, calling him names, assaulting him and all this stuff. So I said, well, the conversation is closed. I'm not going to let you talk to my husband like that, you know.
Where was he?
He was at the doctor's that day.
So he wasn't home?
No, he wasn't home.
So she was just bad-mouthing your husband to you? Okay, next.
So then I said, well, I don't want to talk to you because at the time my baby woke up and everything. So I just said, I don't want to talk to you no more. I'm shutting my screen door. Shut my screen door. And she slammed it. She said, I'll shut your screen door because she was holding it, you know, talking. And then she was like, matter of fact, I'm going to kick your screen door. So she started kicking it, and I started laughing. And I said, and I got on the phone and I called 911. And she said, call your husband, call your husband. She think I was calling him. I was really calling the cops.
Did they come? Did
Yes.
they arrive? You have a report?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? So she kicked the door?
Yes.
And then she left?
Yeah, she left when she, you know, realized I was talking to the cops because I was looking at her tag number.
Anything happened as a result of this complaint?
Well, I had filed another complaint, but apparently I was at the wrong court because their judgment was that we needed mediation to deal with the baby.
Okay, I'm not talking about the baby. I'm talking about this
So
vandalism complaint. Okay, do you have pictures of the door?
Yes.
And do you have an estimate for the damage?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll hear you.
All right, how you doing? First of all, I seen Mr. Walker, my daughter's father, that day, and he said that Shaniqua was home to give her a phone call. So I gave Shaniqua a phone call, and she answered the phone. I said, can I speak to Shaniqua? She said, Shaniqua's not here. Shaniqua's at her grandfather's home. So I goes to the grandfather home. Shaniqua wasn't there. So I called her from the grandfather home, and I asked her, I said, why? I said, do you have a problem with me? And she said, no, I have a problem with the way you treat your daughter. And I said, what do you mean? So we exchanged words on the phone, but I never went out to her home. So then the next time I really seen these people was when I went there with the police to get my daughter after the custody hearing that he did not show up at. It's all basically over, she doesn't like my daughter. My daughter's only 2 years old. She was abusing my child, and I wasn't going to let my child stay there and be abused. So this is what this is all over. A 2-year-old girl that he has a baby by me first and not her. So she made it her business to go out and have a baby. Fine, fine and dandy. So, you know, you mistreating my child. Every time I turn around, you
Listen
miss.
to me.
Yes?
Listen to me.
I don't know anything about the screen door.
The police report was made on the same day as this incident, on the 24th. On the 24th, the child was still living with them. Common sense would indicate to me that you were pretty angry when you went over to the grandfather's house and found that your child wasn't there.
100%.
Right. And then what you expect me to believe is that you didn't go over to the house to confront her about lying to you. That's what you want me to believe.
Well, basically, you're going to believe what you want to believe. But
No, I'm
what
just asking.
I went back to my home where I live at in Clementon, which we was already in municipal court for this case. When she came to municipal court, she had no pictures of the door. That's why the judge threw it out.
Listen to me. It's not what I'm saying to you.
Okay, what are you saying?
You want me to believe that after she gave you the runaround and said that Shaniqua is not at her house, the grandfather's house, first she lied to you, then she sent you on a wild goose chase to go and find your daughter where the daughter wasn't visiting. You want me to believe that you just merely accepted that and went home.
I just want you to believe the truth. That's what happened.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $324, which is the amount to fix the door. Thank you. That's all.
Now, this is case number 71 on the calendar in the matter of Lewis versus Goodman. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Lewis, it is your claim that the defendant filed a false police report about you causing your arrest. You spent, according to what I read, about 16 days in jail as a result of that arrest. Is that right?
Correct.
And you want to be compensated.
Correct.
Tell me how this all started.
Well, it originally started when I met her. I was chatting with her over the internet. Came to be that I wound up moving to the city where she was from because I was offered a job there. She was married at the time. I decided to meet her. Her husband was supposed to come with us, but he didn't show up, so we just became friends. My roommate that I was living with at the time had started dating her friend.
Don't give me all this social relationships. I'm really not interested. Cut to the chase. You met her on the internet. You moved to where she was living.
Right.
You became friends.
Right. Okay. Then it came to a point where I needed a vehicle. My friend, Vinny here, owns a car lot in Daytona Beach. I called him up and told him I needed a vehicle. I told him that I didn't want the vehicle in my name.
Why not?
Because I had did a deposition for him in his divorce trial. And his wife, being the one that he's divorcing, works at the car lot also. If she had saw the title in my name, knowing that I did the deposition, for him, that would have looked kind of fishy, as if like he was trying to bribe me or something. Right. So, and I was, paying him for the vehicle, and so we didn't want it to look like he was just bribing me with the vehicle. So Mary had agreed to put it in her name, and she had the insurance policy to put it on there with, so we did that. Okay.
So your friend, your new friend, agreed to put the car in her name.
Correct.
But she wasn't paying for the car.
Correct. Until I paid off, I was going to pay him $1,200 for the vehicle, and once it got paid off, then it was going to be switched over to my name. So.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Then I had it for roughly a month or so, and I decided to move back to Panama City where my kids live. And whenever I walked out of my house, probably 4 or 5 days after I was back into town, the vehicle was gone. The truck
You mean
was
you
gone.
moved back to Panama City?
Correct.
And when you walked out one day, there was no car?
It was just gone, right.
Okay.
So I called the police department and told them, I need to check to see if it's been towed. So they said, well, we don't have any record of that. I said, well, I need to report it stolen then. So the police department came out. The cop got there, and he asked for my ID, and I handed it to him. And immediately after handing it to him, he put me in handcuffs and told me I was being arrested for stealing the vehicle. And I was just shocked. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what was going on. Then, I get to the police department, and they told me that it was out of Polk County, which was where she's from, and that she had, signed a statement saying that I stole the vehicle from her, so...
Okay. And it was a result of that report that you were arrested and incarcerated?
Correct.
You had no other outstanding warrants or anything
No.
else? So it was based solely on the report that she made?
Correct.
Do you have a copy of that police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Okay, I'll hear you.
Your Honor, when I did all this for Mike, I did it as a friend, and Mike
You
was
mean
not-
allowing the car to be put in your name?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
He was not making the payments on the vehicle because when he went home for Thanksgiving, Vinny's wife had the truck repossessed from his mother's house. I guess he paid Vinny some money and got the truck back and then came back to Polk County where I live. Didn't want to pay me the money for the insurance, so I told him, I said, then you're not going to take this truck. You're not driving around in a truck.
So he was supposed to give you money for insurance?
Yes, ma'am. He was supposed to pay for the insurance.
Okay.
I said, you're not going to drive around in a truck with no insurance that's in my name. You know, if he would have gotten in an accident, it would have been me, you know, myself on the line. And I later found out that he didn't even have a driver's license at the time. That's the reason that I went ahead and filed the police report. Before I filed the police report, because I told him, I said, leave the truck with me. If you're not going to pay for the insurance, you're not taking it.
Did you have that conversation?
No, the conversation was that her husband had found out that she had put the insurance in her on the policy or whatever for the truck, and that he canceled the policy. So I told her, I said, the most I owe you is a month's insurance, not the whole premium, which was like $200 and some odd. And I said, I'm not going to pay you the whole premium.
It was $600 for 6 months.
Or whatever it was. I said, the most I owe you is a month. And I said, and not one point, not at one time did she say, do not take the truck.
Yes,
now,
I did.
my roommate was there at the time, and he was saying, don't take the truck. But the reason why he was saying it was because that was his only means of transportation, was me and him riding together, and he didn't want me to take it. He wanted to keep it there.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Lewis. At the time that you took the truck, did you have insurance?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because I had the insurance card.
Well, just a second. If you don't know whether you had insurance, then you didn't have insurance. If you don't know, then you don't have it. Now, at the time that you took the truck, did you have a valid driver's license?
I didn't know it wasn't valid at the time. I really didn't. I didn't know that until I got to put in jail for it. Not for that, but for this. I didn't know that I had...
What was the reason that you didn't have a valid driver's license, Mr. Lewis?
I was in a motorcycle accident the year before, and I didn't work for 8 months, and I got a ticket for the motorcycle accident, and I wasn't able to pay the ticket, and that's what suspended my license.
That's baloney.
No, that's very true.
There's something more to that.
No, that is the God's honest truth.
When you had the motorcycle accident, was there any alcohol involved?
No, ma'am.
So you didn't pay one ticket and they suspended your license?
Well, there was actually 3 tickets. There was 3 tickets total.
So you were irresponsible in not paying for the ticket. Is that right, Mr. Lewis?
No, it was either paying my child support or paying my tickets. And if my child support didn't get paid, I would have been put in jail. So whenever I was getting unemployment from a motorcycle accident, I either had to pay my child support or pay these tickets.
How much were the tickets, Mr. Lewis?
A total of $600 and some odd.
And what were the tickets for, Mr. Lewis?
One was for no motorcycle endorsement. One was for...
Just a second. What does that mean, no motorcycle endorsement?
In Florida, you have to have, if you ride a motorcycle, you have to have a endorsement for riding a motorcycle.
What is an endorsement, Mr. Lewis? Let's talk English.
As far as I know, it's just a class that you take to say that you're qualified to ride a motorcycle.
So you didn't take a class in order to ride a motorcycle. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct. I was just simply going on a joyride around the block with somebody, so it wasn't that I owned a motorcycle.
Mr. Lewis, all right. So you got a ticket because you did the wrong thing by riding a motorcycle without having a proper endorsement.
Correct.
What was the second ticket for, Mr. Lewis?
Improper turn, I think is what it was, or improper something. I'm not sure what it was. It was because when I turned onto the road, I had lost control of the bike, and a truck hit me, and I went into oncoming traffic. So
and what was the third ticket for, Mr. Lewis?
For... I think they call it careless driving because of that. So it's either careless driving or reckless driving. I couldn't remember what they said it was. So.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You did not pay her for the insurance.
Correct.
You did not have your own insurance policy.
No.
You did not have a valid driver's license.
But I didn't know that.
You didn't know a lot of things.
And later today...
She took some property of yours.
A blouse, some art pads, and I had some Disney books.
Are we talking about nonsense? Are we talking nonsense?
I suppose so.
All right. I don't want to talk about a blouse. I don't have time for a blouse.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mike Lewis says former friend Mary Goodman had him falsely arrested for grand theft auto.
Okay, so let me understand this, Mr. Lewis. You were driving a car that was not in your name, that you had put in her name because of some problem that you had with a deposition.
No, it wasn't a problem.
That's the story you're telling me now. So you had the car put in her name. You were supposed to pay her directly for the insurance.
Right.
And you did not pay her.
Not for that month, correct.
You did not pay her for the insurance.
Correct.
You did not have your own insurance policy.
No.
You did not have a valid driver's license.
I did when I started.
You did not have a valid driver's license.
But I didn't know that.
Whether you knew it or not, you didn't know a lot of things. And you knew that you should not be driving the car because your roommate told you, don't take the car because you don't have insurance.
Well, see, the reason why
Your roommate told you, don't take the car because you don't have insurance.
Correct, but I also thought that the reason why he was saying that was because he wanted it to stay there because he would have had no way to work. That's why
That's why you thought he was saying that.
Correct.
But the truth is, you didn't have insurance.
To be honest with you, I don't know because it was in her name.
Well, to be honest with you, Mr. Lewis, I was thoroughly prepared to rule in your favor reading the papers, because according to the papers, it appeared to me that Miss Goodman was being vindictive when she filed a false police report
Well, Your Honor,
indicating, I'm speaking, indicating that you had stolen the car. But what she said was, in her affidavit, is that you took the car without permission. The car was in her name. You had been using the car. Then she told you not to use the car because there was no insurance. You say no. She says she told you. If she didn't tell you, your roommate told you don't take the car because you don't have insurance. Now, what do you think would have happened? Do you own a home?
No, ma'am. I live with a roommate.
Do you have a car?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a bank account?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what can happen, Mr. Lewis, is if you get into another accident because you are A, making a wrong turn, or B, driving recklessly like you did with your motorcycle, you don't lose anything.
Wrong. The motorcycle that
She loses, I'm speaking, she loses everything. You had no driver's license, you have no insurance, but the car is titled in her name, which means she is responsible. Her bank account is responsible, her automobile is responsible, and everything she had could be tossed to go to pay if you have another accident in an uninsured motor vehicle that's in her name. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do, but...
Good. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They arrested me and took me to jail for stealing the vehicle.
He was responsible for paying for the insurance and for paying for the truck.
I wound up spending 2 weeks in jail because of this.
I didn't want things to come to the point they came to where he had to be arrested to begin with.
I spent a week or 2 weeks in jail, and I missed a whole week with my kids for Christmas that year.
He did miss time with his children, which I feel bad about.
If she didn't think I should have the vehicle, she should have went to a civil court.
Mike and I were good friends, and I did tell him not to take the truck.
Not once did that ever come out of her mouth, not once.
Do for yourself. Don't try to do any favors for other.
Pick better friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cochran versus Saylor. Step forward, please.
Film operator Mary Cochran is suing her former roommate, 19-year-old cashier Jackie Saylor, for unpaid rent, an unpaid car loan, and the return of her personal belongings. Jackie says Mary has already been paid.
Ms. Cochran, the defendant and her baby moved into your home.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you were being nice to her. How did you know her?
I met her at work.
And she needed a place to stay with her baby?
No, she had an apartment at the time. I was really quite impressed with her when I met her. She was 18 and working very hard to take care of her baby on her own. She went to work like 2 weeks after she delivered this baby. I thought that was quite admirable. And she was living in the apartment. It was very tiny. She was always telling me how her aunt and the rest of her family complained about helping her out, taking her places, doing things, watching the child, so on and so forth. And I was about to begin to go through a divorce myself, and I thought that it would help her out to get her out of this teeny apartment, and it would help me out to have someone additionally at the house. She could go ahead and move in with me. I told
You have children?
No, ma'am, I do not.
So you just wanted her in your house for company?
No, I thought it would help us both. We had became friends at work.
Okay, but it was for company, not to watch your children in exchange for living.
Right,
okay.
certainly.
Your lawsuit seeks a couple of things. First, you say that you helped her out, purchased a car. She put down the down payment on the car, and you put the rest of the payments on your credit card, and she was supposed to pay you back. Is that right?
Not quite.
Okay, well, tell me where I'm wrong.
What we had done is we put the entire amount on the credit card, and then she made the payment. She had managed to save $1,100.
So she made a big payment?
She made big payments to me.
And then she was supposed to make...
She was supposed to pay at least the minimum on the credit card bill to pay it off.
Okay. And you claimed that there is still a balance owed for
Yes,
the car.
ma'am, there is.
Then, despite the fact that when she first moved in, there was no agreement that she pay rent, you say that at some point she wanted to pay rent, and you agreed that she would give you some money for rent, and she owes you for 2 months' rent. Did she ever pay you rent?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
How many months did she pay rent?
She paid me for May. She came to me in April and said that she felt bad. And I told her, you know, I could certainly use it if she didn't mind. And she paid me May's rent, and she paid me all but $25 of June's rent.
Okay, so what does she owe you for July?
She owes me the $25 for June and the $250, which was the figure that she chose
When did you move out?
She
Miss
moved
Saylor?
out.
I moved out on August 6th.
Did you pay July's rent?
No, I did not pay July's rent.
Okay. And then you say when she moved out, she took some property of yours. You want to tell me what property she took of yours?
I have the list here. A blouse, some art pads and books she was interested in drawing and such, and I had some Disney books. A couple of the things that are on here, she did return to me prior to our initial...
Are we talking about nonsense? I don't want to talk about nonsense. I want to concentrate on important stuff. Is some stuff that you gave her? Like
yes, and I have deducted that amount.
Are we talking about nonsense with the things that she took from the house? I don't want to talk about a blouse. I don't have time for a blouse. You know. Are we talking nonsense?
I suppose so.
All right, I don't want to talk nonsense. We're talking about July's rent, and we're talking about the car. How much do you claim she still owes on the car?
She still owes me $2,452.82.
Can I see what documentation you have, please?
And that also includes the futon that she bought. That's all on the same card.
Did you buy a futon?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take it with you when you moved out?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Was this credit card used solely for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes.
You paid some off. You say you paid everything off.
I paid what we originally agreed. We didn't talk about interest in the original agreement. I had no idea I was supposed to be paying her interest. When I was paying
Well, you're
her...
not paying her interest.
Well, the card. She told me I didn't have to pay the interest on the card.
Did she?
Yes. There was no agreement about me paying interest.
No,
on
there's
the
a
card
difference between no agreement.
She didn't tell me anything. She said that, I mean, there was no talk about it at all.
But
She didn't tell
how do
me-
you think that the credit card company makes their money? Finance charge is how credit cards make their money. If you don't pay the whole thing off, then you have to pay the finance charges. She's not charging it to you. They're charging it.
Well, I mean, I think
Who's supposed to pay the interest on the credit card? She allows you to buy a car and took out the money from the credit card. And you're not paying the whole amount off at one time. You're paying little bits at a time, right?
Yes.
Well, who's supposed to pay the interest to the credit card company? 17% interest. Who's supposed to pay that?
I mean, we didn't... I was 18 years old. I didn't know nothing about credit. I mean, she didn't even bring it up. I didn't know nothing about it. I'd never used a credit card before.
You don't live on Pluto, madam. You know that credit
Yes,
cards...
ma'am.
You know that credit cards charge interest. That's how they make money. You're not stupid, are you?
No.
How much in payments did you make in total?
I'm not exactly sure. I didn't get receipts from her. I just paid her, you know, cash. Whenever I had extra cash, I would give her whatever I had. The payments ranged from $100. Once I paid her $200, almost $300, just whatever I had extra that I didn't have to buy diapers and stuff with.
Why did you leave?
I left because when she met her boyfriend, she was staying out a lot, and she wasn't taking care of her pets. They had fleas. She wouldn't get rid of the fleas in the house. I had to feed them and clean up after them. They would come in and make messes and then leave, and I would clean it up. And I just decided that I didn't want to anymore, so I moved out.
Where did you go?
I went to my father's.
Did you take your car?
Yeah.
What kind of car is it?
It's a Pontiac Grand Am.
Well, with the $250 in rent, you owe $2,703 to the plaintiff. That's what you owe her. You paid a lot off because the original price of the car was $3,375.01. And when was that purchased? March 20th of '01? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you paid a substantial amount off, but 150, 100, 150, that doesn't go to pay all of that off in a year. Do you understand? Because your defense is that you paid off the whole car. And even from what you tell me, you couldn't have paid off the whole car.
Matter of Levitt versus Felix. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
A relationship with the defendant. That relationship produced a child, a son.
Yes.
And that during that 5-year relationship, you made loans to him well in excess of $5,000.
Yes.
Relationship terminated.
Yes.
You want your money.
Yes.
And you say?
That's not how it happened.
Tell me about it.
Well, we were in a relationship for about, I'd say, a year, over almost a year. And he had for about, I'd say, a year, over almost a year. And he had a computer portrait business, and he wanted to enhance his computer equipment. So he came to me and asked me for a loan. And so I said, well, okay, it's understood that it's a loan. And he said, yeah, any money that I ask of you, I want, it's going to be a loan. I'm going to pay it back. And I said, okay. So I made a record of it. I made a record of everything, you know, because it's a business loan. And
show,
so,
take it out. Show me. First, show him.
No, I've seen it.
You've seen it? Okay.
this is the checks and our relationship. He paid me back some money, you know. And so he got a job like this year in July, and he's telling me that he gets paid like $4,000 a month. But yeah, he's not going to pay me back my money because, you know, I was stupid, I was gullible, I believed everything that he said to me. He used me because, you know, I was stupid, I was gullible, I believed everything that he said to me. He used me. He took advantage of my kindness, and we were together for 5 years.
And you say?
We met maybe back in 91 or 92. You know, she came in to get insurance for me. And she's been calling me ever since. And then a week later, I decided to go out with her. And after a couple of months, it just didn't work out. Okay, I said, look, it's not going to work out. You know, you just fresh off a relationship, you're insecure, you low self-esteem and everything. You know, just, I don't want to go out with you. Okay? And she started crying. Okay, she's like, she grabbed my legs. And she's like, please don't leave me. I don't want to be alone. I don't want this. I don't want that. Okay. I said, I'll stay with you, but nothing's going to come out of it. Okay. It was just strictly sexual. You know, we'll go out. She even called me her booty call. She called me when she wants to have sex.
That's
okay?
not true, Your Honor.
Hey, that's how it was. You know, I mean, I'd go out, do my own thing, you know, go out with whoever I wanted. Okay. If I don't have anything better to do.
How chivalrous of you.
Well, I mean, that's what I pointed out. It's even on paper. You know, so it's like, take it or leave it. Okay, I'm not going to have a relationship with you. Okay?
All of that is, listen, that's a boy-girl thing. If she wants to accept a relationship under those conditions, that's fine.
That's what she
We're
accepted.
talking here about.
I'm getting to that. I am getting to that. But in the meantime...
Loans, your insurance, all these checks with your signature on the back of endorsements. So, car payment.
I never asked her to pay anything for me, okay?
But just a second. Did you take it?
Yeah, she volunteered. Why not? You know? That's like she thought she had to do that, okay? In order to keep me from leaving her. It's either pay stuff for me or send me dirty pictures, half-naked pictures, just
Put them
everything.
away. I don't want to see them.
You don't want to see? I've got them here. Anybody else?
No, just a second. Anybody else want to see it? Is that what you just said? Did you just say anybody else want to see it?
Well, the whole thing was a joke to me, you know. It's like things were not working out from day one, and she's like...
So why didn't you just say goodbye?
I have.
You're a big guy. You want to say goodbye to somebody, you could just say goodbye.
I went to Miami. I went to Orlando. She would track me down. I have letters she sent me to everywhere I go.
Well, so you understood Mr. Felix, right? That according to you, Miss Levitt was infatuated with you.
Yes.
And you felt that she was, according to you, insecure. Is that right? Fair statement? Vulnerable because of that.
Maybe you could see that.
Because of that.
Maybe you could see that. Sure.
And so you decided to go over and, according to you, for want of a better phrase that unfortunately doesn't come to my mind right now, service, right?
Yes.
Service her occasionally and pick up a check.
Nah, it wasn't always like that.
Let's go back a second, Mr. Felix. You did service her.
Yes.
And you did pick up a check.
That's not the service for a check.
No,
It wasn't
no.
like that.
I'm just saying, you did service her, and you did pick up a check or two, or 10.
Sure.
Or 20. Now, Mr. Felix, that's not very nice, sir. That doesn't say to me that you are a very nice person. Do you want me to explain it to you?
Judge.
That you are a very nice person. Do you want me to explain it to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She got pregnant on purpose. That didn't work, okay? I'm not going to be with her no matter what she does.
And later today,
You made the car payments for her?
She borrowed money from her family that I helped repay.
My family will be very surprised to hear that there were payments made to them.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jacqueline Levitt says the father of her child John Carlos Felix borrowed money to buy computer equipment, but never repaid her. He says the money was a gift.
Can I make this suggestion to you, sir? There will come a time when Miss Levitt will become so frustrated with the situation that if you don't take her to court, and I doubt that you will, because I doubt that you have this passion to see your child on a regular basis, but she will feel as if, as she should, that the child has a right to be supported by two parents. And that's what the law says. So she's going to take you to court. And under the law in many jurisdictions, she can take you to court seeking support from the date of the child's birth. Do you understand that? So I'm going to suggest, Mr. Felix, that from now on, when you make child support payments, you make them by check or money order, made payable to her, clearly endorsed child support. So should there ever be a question about how much money you have paid, it is memorialized in a writing. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
Parties on Sherritt versus Liebenson. Step forward, please.
29-year-old Jill Sherritt says her ex-boyfriend, Brad Liebenson, Brad missed several payments.
You were dating. He wanted a You were dating. He wanted a watercraft.
Yeah.
Something that you ride on the water.
Exactly.
Very California.
Yes, it is.
But he had no credit. So you got the watercraft, she got the bill, and then you broke up, leaving you with the bill.
Yes, I do.
You have the bill?
I did.
Did you pay for it?
Up to a certain point, that's correct.
How much?
$1,000.
And how much was the watercraft?
Approximately $4,000.
So that leaves, well, explain to me why you don't owe her the watercraft or the...
Approximately $4,000.
So that leaves, well, explain to me why you don't owe her the watercraft or the $3,000.
Well, in the statement that I did give, we had come upon an agreement to where after I paid for her to stay with me during the period of our relationship and the money that I spent, that the balance...
Idea.
During one of our last meetings, before she actually moved out.
You had this conversation with her that you remember vividly as you stand here before me today.
Yes.
How long did you live together?
4 years.
He says that you came up with this agreement with regard to the watercraft, that you lived with him. I assume he's going to tell me that he paid all the bills. Is that right?
That's correct.
And the watercraft, that you lived with him. I assume he's going to tell me that he paid all the bills. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that therefore you had an understanding that he would pay for the first $1,000 of the watercraft. Does any of that sound familiar to you?
There was never any conversation like that at all. The only conversation in regards to the jet ski was that I was going to pay for it and he would make the monthly payments on it until it was paid off or until he could come up with the lump sum to pay it off. There was never any trade for this, trade for that. That was never discussed. That wasn't part of the agreement at all.
Mr. Liebenson, when you were together, tell me what kind of expenses you took care of, sir.
Rent, utilities, car payment, things like that.
For yourself and for the plaintiff?
That's correct.
She had her own car?
Yep.
And you made the car payments for her?
She borrowed money from her family that I helped repay.
Explain that to me.
She didn't have money for a car when she moved out here. She borrowed money from her family. I repaid most of that money.
How much money?
Approximately $3,000.
Can you show me how you repaid that money?
I made payments to them.
How?
By check and by giving money to Jill.
Well, let me see some checks.
I don't have them here.
Get copies of that, sir.
They weren't able to get them to me.
Does any of that sound familiar?
No, my family will be very surprised to hear that there were payments made to them for repayment of a car, which I paid every dime of.
Assuming, Mr. Liebenson, that I do not believe you. Let's start with that premise, sir. Your answer, sir, says, for the first year and a half that you were sir, says, for the first year and a half that you were together, you paid for rent, bills, car repairs, and food. There isn't anything here about repaying a loan to her parents.
Maybe
Nothing.
I omitted that when writing my statement.
Well, the statement is 2 pages long, sir. That's a really big thing to omit, considering that it's the first thing that you mentioned to me today, and just happens to be in the same approximate amount of the water ski. And you go into great detail in your answer. Jill and I lived together for 4.5 years. During the last 6 to 8 months, I decided to purchase a personal watercraft.
That's correct.
Not the two of you. I decided. Although you say, due to my credit standing at that particular time, I was denied the loan. Jill offered to use her credit to obtain the loan. And then you say, after the separation, I discussed the fact that I had supported her during the first year or so, and we should offset that. So you go into great detail. Nothing about this loan that you paid, that you couldn't get from microfilm from your bank.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
All right, you got the watercraft?
That's right.
You got the bill. How much did you pay?
Altogether, a little over $5,000 with finance charges because it was a revolving line of credit, so there was finance charges that were accrued.
You're only suing for $3,200.
Yeah, basic blue book cost of the watercraft. It's basically the principle of the thing at this point.
Mm-hmm. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,200.
Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am. Ma'am.
You two gals are real good friends. You went to some sort of an event, which you're going to tell me about. One of the things that happened at that event was that there was a door prize of a brand new Jeep automobile. Right?
Correct. Yes.
She won, you think that you should get half. Right?
No. Not exactly.
Well,
I think we both won.
You think you both won, and she claimed the prize.
Yeah, she ended up going behind the back and claiming the prize.
All right, let's start from the beginning. What kind of an event was this?
It was just an event from a radio station and Taco Bell. It was just a concert.
Slowly.
It was just a concert. It was just a concert where these rappers are going to be there or something like that.
You, according to your complaint, got the concert tickets and asked her if she wanted to go.
No, she got the concert tickets.
She got the tickets.
Yeah, and she asked me if I wanted to go.
Okay.
And I agreed, and we went, and at the door, they asked us if we wanted to gamble, and we said yes, and they gave us $500 fake dollars each.
Did you have to pay for that?
No. No, they just asked us at the front, if you wanted to gamble, you got $500. If you didn't, well, you didn't gamble.
So it was like Monopoly money.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Okay.
And after that, she asked me, I mean, I was there with her the whole time, but then she asked me if she could gamble my money, and I said, sure, go ahead, you know. And she's like,
you weren't gambling?
No, I was just standing right there, just helping her out. That was about it. She gambled, she got all my money, she gambled it away, and we ended up getting chips for, just chips, regular chips of what you gamble with, and when you were gambling. So we had to trade those in for tickets. And after that, some guys just came up to us and told us that, oh, they were leaving, they were in a rush, so they came over and they gave us their tickets. They said, here, girls, good luck, and if you guys win, give us a call.
So now you had these whole bunch of tickets, and you threw them in a pot.
We just, yeah. That
Who held on to the stubs?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was, she had it in my backpack, so she put it in the backpack. We had a backpack, it was only one, so she put them in there.
And you had a whole bunch of them. How many did you have?
There was probably 50 or probably more. I wouldn't know. We didn't count them. And we just threw them inside the backpack, and it was time for them to call out the tickets. The time came, so we went down there and they started calling out tickets. We won other prizes. Prior to that, we won something else, and it was time to call out.
What else did you win?
We won a jacket and a backpack. And
what'd you do with that?
One of us kept the backpack and the other one kept the jacket.
Is that right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I guess the time came to win the thing, and we just got the tickets, and she's like, "Here, you take half," because there was so many of them. We just split them up. She said, "You take half, I'll take the other half." And
to look
yeah,
at the numbers as they were calling the numbers.
Yeah. So then after that, they called the number. That was about it. They called.
And you had the ticket. You were holding that ticket.
Yeah, she was holding the ticket.
Okay. Now let me ask you this question. I'll ask you this question. There came a time when you did split up these tickets, right? She held half and you held half. Tell me about that moment.
As I recall, we just split them up.
Not we split them up. They're in your hands.
Okay, I split them up evenly.
Split them up evenly?
Yes, I just gave her half and, we both looked at them.
Okay. Am I correct that your reason that was done was because it's too difficult to look at all the numbers as they're calling out the numbers like in a bingo or something,
Yes.
so that each one of you was looking through half,
Correct.
right? And your ticket won.
Yeah, they were my tickets. They were all my tickets.
Now, why do you think they were all your tickets?
Because she had given me her $500. I did not ask her if I can play with her $500. She gave them to me. She gave the $500 to me.
How did that come about?
She said, "Here, take my money. You can gamble with it."
Is that what you said?
No.
No, that's not what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
No, we were gambling. She ended up, she was like down to her last $50, and she just said, "Can I, let me have your money." And she said, if we would win the Jeep, we would split it up.
I had said that from the guys' tickets. I had the guys' tickets in one hand, and I had my tickets in the other hand. The ones that I had won.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. All the tickets were together in your backpack at one point. Oh, I
Yes,
think that they
at
probably
one point-
were.
at
All
one
the
point we put
tickets
them
were
all
together
together.
in your backpack.
At one point, I had put them all together, yes.
So at that point, they were all mixed together.
Yes.
Yours and the guys.
Yes.
Right. So there really is no way of knowing whether it was your ticket that won or the guy's ticket that won.
Exactly.
Well, now at least we got that straight. So it's not in one hand and then the other hand.
But I had told her, out of their tickets that they gave us, actually they gave me the tickets, and I told her out of those tickets, if we win it, we'll split it because we were friends.
You couldn't tell whether it was their ticket that won.
No, we could not.
You just assumed it was comfortable for you to say it wasn't one of their tickets that won, it was my ticket that won.
I did not say that.
You had no way of knowing whether it was your ticket that won or one of the guys' tickets that won. Right?
Exactly.
Mike, Tila. Hello?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You speak to this pain in the neck, and a 12-year friendship is down the drain over a Jeep.
And later today,
He had stolen my daughter's clothes before. I also have sex letters where he signed up for sex calls. And I have pictures to prove what kind of person he is.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Myra Barraza is suing her former best friend Tina Barraza after they won a new Jeep in a raffle.
I see that you have a tape there. Can you tell me what that tape is of?
This is just the day of the event. Recorded us where we both claimed the prize. We both did go up there and claim the prize. And
For the
said-
Jeep?
Yes.
I want to see it.
Here we go. 607 487. You got it? All right, girl. We're going home with it. Who won the Jeep?
Well, that certainly looks as if, at least at that moment, there was a mutuality that each of you won that prize. So what happened?
I was willing to split with her.
So?
And that's what we were going to do until about a month later. She had called me up, and she had said that she wanted to give it to me. She said, go ahead and have it, in other words.
Where was it?
I hadn't got it yet.
Did you do that?
No, I called her up. There was all this stuff was going on with the Jeep. We didn't know what we were going to do. It was a big old thing about it. We didn't know how we were going to split it up, who was going to pay for tax and license and everything. And we were going to get the confirmation letter. And I called her up and I told her, yes, you could stay with the Jeep. But she had said if she stood with the Jeep, she was going to give me an $8,000 loan. That's how much the car was worth, $16,000.
I did not state that.
And I told her, okay. She said she was going to tell her dad, sell her other car that she had just bought, sell it back, and instead of paying $15,000, she'll just tell her dad to get an $8,000 loan and pay me for it. And I said, okay. We agreed. I never thought anything. I just said, okay. We didn't. It was just a verbal thing. But I did tell her, okay, you could keep the Jeep and
that sounds reasonable because you can't split up the Jeep.
Yeah, and I just said, okay. And I said, you could pay my $8,000 or else we're just going to sell the Jeep and we're both going to get our half.
No, she did not say that on the phone. She told me that she wanted me to keep the Jeep. That's what she told me.
What? Of course, that's what she said to you.
Yeah, but she did not specify that she wanted me to give her $8,000.
Well, why would she make you a gift of $8,000? If the Jeep is worth $16,000, why in the world do you think, madam, that she would make you a gift of $8,000, which is half of the Jeep? Why?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, let's go slowly. What word didn't you understand? Why do you think that she would make you a present of $8,000?
She did not say anything about $8,000. I did not hear anything about $8,000 on that telephone call. At that time, I was like happy. I was happy that she given it to me. And I figured that
what are you doing standing up here?
I want to step in for the spot where she called her. She told me through everything that happened. She called me every time they had a conversation. She was asking me, what should I do? What should I do? What do I do about the Jeep? Do I split it in half? Should I sell it? What? I told her, you know what? You won the tickets to that concert. It's your Jeep. You were holding the ticket at the time she won it.
Oh, you're the troublemaker. Sit down. Sit down.
As I was saying, I figured the reason why she said that on the telephone is because she knew that she did not have any part in the ticket winning.
Oh, please, madam. I want to tell you something. I think that your conduct was really outrageous to bring it to this point. First of all, the two of you have been friends. There isn't a question in my mind. What?
9 years. 12 years.
There isn't a question in my mind, after looking at that tape, that at the time that that Jeep was won, the two of you, both of you, I saw her signing papers.
We didn't sign any
Just
paper.
a second.
It was just a back of a flyer. We put down both our names and addresses.
Right. It was the back of a flyer. You both put down your names and addresses as the winners. Right?
Yes.
That's what it looked like to me on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometime you speak to this pain in the neck who says to you, I don't think you have to split it with her at all because it was your ticket, it was in your hand. And a 12-year friendship is down the drain over a Jeep because there is no logical reason that I can think of, except if you're drinking too much, to think that this lady would call you up and say, I just want to give it to you because you're a very nice person. I care about you.
No.
Please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today.
That's called the Soddy principle, S-O-D-D-I. Some other dude did it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Myra Peraza and her former best friend, Tina Peraza, won a new Jeep in a raffle. But Myra says Tina is refusing to share.
Listen to me. Bottom line is, the maximum jurisdiction in this court is $5,000.
I know.
You understand that?
Yeah, I know.
Right? Now, she claimed this prize. I assume you went and claimed the prize.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Correct. She told me to do what's right, and that's what I thought was right.
Yeah, she just went off this one day. I spoken to her the weekend before she did this. I spoken to her the whole week when she went off to the radio station and had a cashier's check with her parents. And she did this on Friday. I spoke to her Friday and Saturday. She told me nothing. I told her what's going on. She said nothing. I haven't spoken to them. I haven't heard of anything.
Miss Peraza, your friendship's over.
I know that.
And based upon what I've heard, that's probably the right thing to happen.
Yeah, I know.
Because she's not a very trustworthy person. Now, she claimed the Jeep. She's going to have to pay the taxes on it. But I'm awarding you $5,000, which is the maximum that I can. My grandmother used to say, if you do the right thing happens. If you do the wrong thing, eventually it's going to catch up with you. What you did was pretty sneaky. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Okay, you got your Jeep. You better money.
Back door to your right, please.
Just to reiterate what Judge Judy said, bad things, it all comes back to people or whatever. It's going to come back to her because I did what I thought was right, and in God I trust that I do what's right, and I think it's going to come back to her what she did because she was wrong, not me. She's lucky for even being there. She's lucky for even being at the event. I don't see that she deserves half. I won the tickets to go to the event, and she was even lucky that I took her.
You got your $5,000 you wanted.
I did.
So now you can shut up.
Yeah, you too. You had nothing to do with this.
And now the next case.
Parties on Anderson versus Rankin. Step forward, please.
Margaret Anderson is suing her tenant, Tim Rankin, claiming he made phone calls to 900 numbers totaling more than $1,000.
All right, Mr. Rankin. You rented a room from the plaintiff.
That's correct.
And I believe that you will agree, based upon what doesn't seem to be in dispute, that when you moved in, you wanted a telephone in your room.
That's correct, Your Honor.
But because of prior problems, you couldn't get the phone in your name.
She offered to put the phone...
Because of prior problems, you couldn't get the phone in your name.
I owed a past due bill on the Pacific bill.
So the answer to my question is yes. You couldn't get the phone in your name.
Correct.
I knew we'd get there, Bird.
Take your time, George.
So she said, okay.
Yes.
Right? Are you nervous?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
I could tell you were nervous. She said, okay, you put the phone in your room, and within a relatively short period of time, you got a bill.
Yep.
And how much was that bill for?
$1,059.
For a 1 month period?
2 months period.
2 months. And you say I didn't do it.
I didn't do it, Your Honor.
Is the phone in your room?
Yes, it is.
You think she did it?
I doubt
Look at this lady. Look, I just want you to look at her. You think she went into your room and made the calls?
I doubt it.
Somebody's got to pay the bill.
That's right.
Now, you want to try to explain to me in 100 words or less why it shouldn't be you?
In 100 words or less, I don't know if I can do it in 100 words or less, but I believe that the other tenant that was living there made those phone calls.
So?
And there's a reason behind why I think he made those phone calls.
I'll hear you.
Okay, well, the former tenant and her had a limousine business. She put up $27,000 for a limousine. Somehow I was drawn into the middle of that. Their business relationship didn't work out from the get-go. They were screaming and yelling every night there. And because I didn't take his side in the limousine business, he started to have an attitude against me. Eventually, I had to throw him in jail for assault on me at the lady's house. The following day, her and I went down and put restraining orders on him. At that point, I believe he went in my room. He wanted me out of that house no matter what. No matter what the cost, so he could work on her by himself. I believe that he went into my room and made a bunch of phone calls, information phone calls. I'm not sure what exactly they were. Psychic, maybe, I don't know what kind of phone calls they were.
Psychic hotline calls? Is that what they were?
900. Sex calls.
Sex calls.
Sex calls. Okay.
Okay. So that's your defense. You know, we used to call that, when I was sitting judge in Manhattan, somebody once told me that that's called the Soddy principle, S-O-D-D-I. Some other dude
done it.
Did it. Did you ever hear that?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Rankin, let's keep this simple, sir. Somebody's got to pay this bill. The phone is in your room. If the phone had been in your room and been in your name, you would have had to have paid the phone bill. And then if you felt that somebody in an unauthorized fashion used your phone, you would go and sue them. Right?
That's correct.
But you don't say to the telephone company, listen, ma belle, I didn't make the phone calls from my phone. Somebody else did it. You pay the bill, and then you pursue whatever other remedies you have. You are responsible to safeguard the phone in your room. Not her. She was doing you a favor. Why should she be out $1,059? Is there any reason?
No, there's not a reason
Good.
she should be out.
Judgment in the case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,059.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Quiet in the courtroom, ma'am. Judge, this is case number 290 on the calendar in the matter of Gigliotti versus Kemp. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Gigliotti, you were going to the post office.
Yes, Your Honor.
You were driving.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, you got to the post office and looking for a place to park, and all the parking spots were taken.
It was about 10:40 in the morning. I drove into the parking lot. I noticed there was no spaces available. I looked over the parking space for the handicapped, and there was a car there, and I noticed that it had Louisiana license plates that were not handicap provided. I also looked at the front mirror to see if there was a placard there.
So you got out of your car?
Yes, I did. And then I went back to my car and I took out a Polaroid camera, and I took a picture of the car and my car as it was seated in the parking space for the handicapped, and then I wrote down the license plate number. And I also noticed when I was around front that it had a Navy parking sticker on it. So I copied down the number of that also.
Okay. So far, what you were doing is you were outraged that somebody parked in the handicapped parking spot.
Exactly, Your Honor.
Okay, so then what did you do?
Well, as I was writing down the license plate number from the car that was parked there, it was a black Plymouth, a woman came out of the post office, and she started yelling and screaming and waving her arms. She was waving her arms like this. And she said, you move that car, I'll move you.
What do you mean? I don't understand. Why did you have to move your car?
I had pulled in behind the car that was in the parking space in order to get out of the driveway, because the driveway was right next to that parking space. I pulled in behind it.
So you blocked the car?
Yes.
Now, when you looked inside the car, did you see anybody in the car?
I didn't notice anybody at that time, Your Honor.
Okay, so you had now blocked the car, and the woman came out and said, you better move the car.
Yes.
What did you do?
She was yelling and screaming, and I was absolutely certain that she was going to cause some violence. So I walked away from her and walked into the post office and called the police.
Why didn't you just get into your car and move your car?
I didn't think I had that much time. She was coming at me rather fast, rather loud.
Order.
Yeah, go ahead.
And while I was waiting in the post office, Miss Corbett, who was going to be the witness, came in and said, is that your car with the handicap placard in the parking lot? And I said, yes, it was. And she said, that woman just keyed your car. And I went out to the parking lot to see if I could see where she had keyed the car, but she was still walking up and down between the two cars, yelling and screaming and throwing her arms around. So I didn't go out there. I just waited until the police came. And when the police came, I did go out and I inspected the car, and it had been keyed, the entire driver's side.
Okay. You do have handicap plates on your car?
I do.
Why is that, sir?
Because I have a back injury that limits my ability to walk.
How long have you had that back injury?
2.5 years.
And how long have you had the handicap plates?
About 1.5 years.
Mm-hmm. Step up, please.
Yes.
Can you tell me your name?
Yes, I'm Janice Corbett.
Miss Corbett, I assume you work in the post office. You're the postal worker.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see this lady key his car?
I saw this lady do a keying motion to his car.
So, describe what you saw.
I saw her talking with another woman and some children, and she had her keys in her hand. She was frustrated. Then she went to the side of his car, and her arm turned. I could not actually see the key in her hand at this moment, but her arm was turned, so I could see this part, and she walked stiff-armed alongside the car.
Okay. Miss Kemp?
Yes.
According to your complaint, and you have a countersuit against the plaintiff for unlawful imprisonment of both you and your children, who you say were in the car.
Yes.
How many children did you have in the car?
3.
How old are they?
At the time, the twins were 4 months old, and Nicholas was 5 years old.
What were you doing at the post office?
I went to the post office that morning to mail a few letters and to purchase stamps. I did pull in to a handicap spot. Yes, I know that was wrong, but thinking that I would be in there 2 to 3 minutes, I knew I would be right back out. I just didn't think there would be a problem. So, and I was in a hurry because I went there before I brought Nicholas to school. So we went into the post office, my kids and I did what I had to do. I stopped at the front counter to make out some things on the...
How are you holding the twins?
They were in a stroller.
So you actually took them out of the car and put the twins in the stroller?
Yes.
And Nicholas was with you?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And we went into the post office. Like I said, on the way out, I stopped at the desk to put the stamps on and all. So I did that. We went back to the car. He said I was waving my arms. I didn't even recognize him because I was in such a hurry to get Nicholas to school. But I got in the car. As I looked back to see if my pathway was clear, then I realized he was parked behind me. So that parking lot is really small. So I thought maybe he was just trying to maneuver his way out of it. He didn't move. So I just sat there and waited a second because I didn't really know what he was doing. So he didn't move. I saw him come out of his trunk with a camera. So he started to take pictures. And so I didn't think anything. And then I looked up and there was this handicap. I said, okay, I know what he's doing and I know what I did. So I got out and I was not enraged because I knew I was wrong. I became upset when he said he was not going to move. So I waited until he was done with it because I thought that would be the end of it. He's taking pictures. This is his evidence. They'll give me a ticket. That was not the end of it. So he went into the front part of his car to do what I don't know. So that's when I took a step to the back of my car and I asked him, would he then move? He said there was no way in hell he was going to move. And he was the person that was yelling. I was not yet upset because I wasn't quite sure what his intentions were yet.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
When she came out, she was so violent that I was absolutely certain it was going to get into fisticuffs.
I don't believe you, sir. I don't believe you.
30 years and 30 pounds on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerome Gigliotti says Monica Kemp slashed his tires and keyed his car in the post office parking lot. Monica says Jerome blocked her car so she couldn't pull out, leaving her and her children trapped.
You knew you had done something wrong.
Right.
But you knew that what he was doing, that he was gathering evidence so that he could present it to give you a ticket.
After a while.
Okay.
And he told me there was no way in hell he was going to move. I then started to tell him that, you know, I had to get Nicholas to school. I informed him that I did not have any more formula for my kids because I didn't bring any because I was intending a quick trip to the post office and to school.
I assume you were pretty hot at this point, Ms. Kemp. I assume you were.
I was not angry yet because I thought once I told him that, he would move. And I offered him other information of mine. I told him he could have my driver's license number. I did notice when he came to the front of the car, he was copying down my military information. I asked him, didn't he have enough information? He was ignoring me. When I offered more information, he ignored me. And at this point, when he started to walk off, I was like, I don't believe this. You are going to let us out, aren't you? And he just walked off. And so there was another woman who came up and she just started to ask me what was the problem and are you okay? Because by this point I had become extremely emotional because it's like, okay, this man is not going to move and my kids are in the car and it's hot and they were starting to cry and I was just really upset. I was scared. So she tried to calm me down. She went in the post office and she asked him to move. And
did somebody else come into the post office and ask you to move, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why didn't you?
I told her I wasn't going to go out there so long as that other woman, Miss Kemp, was out there.
All they wanted you to do was move the car.
You
Sir.
did not see the condition that she was. She was yelling and screaming, waving her arms, and there was no way I was going to get into a fight with her.
what was I going to do, throw a baby at you?
Just a second.
I had a baby in
Just
my
a
arm.
You know that all she wanted you to do was to move your car. She wasn't going to get into a fight with you because if she got into a fight with you, she couldn't get her kids in her car out. Come on, sir. Let's be honest with each other. You were very angry that someone had parked in the handicap spot that was really reserved for you. Now, I can understand that. I could really understand that. There's nothing to suggest that you did anything wrong in taking down the license plate number, copying down the Navy information, taking a photograph of her parking in that spot. I'm telling you now, I do have a problem with you blocking her car, especially when you knew that there were children with her, twins, under 6 months old, and her son. I do. I mean, you came into court today, not in a wheelchair, sir. You didn't come in a wheelchair, and you didn't come in a stretcher. So I don't know how come it is that you got a handicap parking placard. I have difficulty walking too sometimes. Nobody's going to give me a handicap parking placard. Right? Even Bird here sometimes gets tired, right, Bird? So, can't get a holier-than-thou approach to life, sir, and look at everything reasonably. I mean, this is a situation that was a fast-paced situation, but try to have a little understanding. She was prepared to get a ticket. You could have seen to it that she got a ticket. But you went a little overboard. Now, that doesn't excuse the fact that you keyed his car.
I did not key his car.
Somebody keyed his car. Let me see the pictures of your car. Come on, Miss Kemp. So far, you've been very honest with me. So far, I believe you've been very honest with me.
I have been.
That's right. Let's see, Roxas. Yeah. And aside from the scratch marks on your car, you also had a blown tire, is that right?
No, Your Honor, it wasn't blown, it was slashed. I have a cast of the tire here that shows it's a very neat cut. And when I took it into the tire repair place, they said they couldn't patch it and that it had gone about a ½ an inch into the tire. And it's a very narrow cut, so you can see there was a cut and there wasn't road damage.
If it was cut, you must have cut it, because I didn't.
Let me take a look at that, please. Well, it's kind of hard to slash a tire with a key.
May I say something?
Sure.
I would like to know if his tire was slashed, how did he back out to let me out? How did he get out?
I just said to you, I don't think he can establish through any witness that he has today that you did anything to the tire of his car. That's not what this witness said. Miss Kemp, look at me, dear.
I'm looking.
Keying his car. Saying, Miss Kemp, I'm not suggesting to you that the situation didn't enrage you. You had a right to be enraged.
I know.
I believe you had a right to be enraged. What you did was a violation. Sir, what she was engaged in was a violation. I find it disingenuous on your part to suggest that you feared for your life, and when you called the police, you said that a woman had just assaulted you, because that's what you wrote in your complaint. This woman never assaulted you. If she came out swinging her arms and being very agitated because her car was blocked, that is not an assault.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an attorney, Your Honor.
You must have a very slow practice.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerome Gigliotti says Monica Kemp did damage to his car at the post office. Monica denies she did anything wrong and says Jerome overreacted by blocking her car for 2 hours.
Let me explain something to you, sir.
You need help.
What you found was a violation. No different from finding somebody parked in front of a fire hydrant. Same kind of violation. The action that you took was not in direct proportion to the violation that you observed. Once, sir, you observed this lady and her children. She had 3 little kids. Wisdom would have been the better part of your action, and if you would have said, I now have the proof to take to the police, this is her car, this is this, she is going to get a ticket for parking in a handicapped spot, which was clearly wrong, you and I would have had no problem. And if she vandalized your car, which I believe that you did, Ms. Kemp.
I see that, but I didn't.
Yes, you did. Your action was not responsive to what you saw, sir. You did not exercise good, mature judgment. Good, mature judgment would have meant, once you saw what she had in the car, which was 3 small children, you pulled the car out, let her leave, report it to the police, go to the Army barracks, do whatever you wanted to do in order to see to it that she had to pay an appropriate fine. It would have aggravated her enough to have paid a fine. What you chose to do was to create and incite a situation by blocking her car. That was dumb, stupid. And I guarantee you, if she had been 6'4" and a man walking out of that post office, you would not have blocked the car. No question in my mind, you would not have blocked that car. So,
Your Honor,
I have a lawsuit.
I didn't intend to block her car.
You
I intended to take down the information.
You did.
When she came out, she was so violent that I was absolutely certain it was going to get into fisticuffs.
I don't believe you, sir. I don't believe you.
30 years and 30 pounds on me.
I don't believe you, sir.
30
All you had
years,
to do,
you wish.
All you had to do was
Look
get
like my
in your
great-grandfather.
car. You had already taken the pictures. Get in your car and leave. And she, with her 3 small children, was not going to assault you. And you will never convince me otherwise, sir. Never. So, you have a lawsuit, and you are suing her for $5,000 for illegally parking in a handicapped space.
Your Honor, I later found out that she lives 1 block from the post office.
And?
Just a second.
She could have walked home if she wanted to. It's 1 block away.
And you
Sir,
could have moved.
please don't respond to him.
You're right, I shouldn't.
Shh, please don't respond to him. First of all, how did you find out she lives a block away from the post office?
I took the license plate down and I used the DMV in New Orleans, in Louisiana and Baton Rouge to find the registered owner. And then through the Postal Service, I obtained a forwarding address from that address to the address in San Diego.
Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an attorney, Your Honor.
You must have a very slow practice.
Yes. That's what I think.
Because if you took the time over this nonsense that you have just told me about, you'd be far better to donate some of your time and some of your energy, sir, to the poor. I was sympathetic to you up to a point. There isn't a soul who drives a car that isn't infuriated when they are driving around and around and around and looking for a parking space and see somebody who has abused their parking privilege and parked in a handicapped spot. Not a soul who's driven a car who hasn't had that kind of frustration. You took it a step too far. And she has a cross complaint against you for $5,000 for unlawful imprisonment for a period of well over 20 minutes. Is that what it was?
No.
How long?
It was like 3 hours.
Until, from the time he blocked your car until the time the police came, how much time elapsed?
From the time he blocked me until the time the first set of police arrived?
How many sets of police arrived?
They had to call someone else to make him move because he, and that's on my cross complaint also, about the intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is when my son became emotional because he would still not move. They had to call someone else to make him move.
Why wouldn't you move when the first set of...
He wanted me arrested.
Why wouldn't you move when the first set of police came?
The first set of police never asked me to move my car.
I heard him.
Well, you were no longer in fear.
That's true.
Just a second. You were no longer in fear, sir, because you now had police officers around. Why didn't you just move your car?
Because they didn't tell me to. All they wanted to do was talk to me.
He's lying.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I believe you keyed his car. Right? Let him fix it. I believe that your children suffered during that period of time. And I assume you'll never park.
5 on the calendar in the matter of Stanoff versus Jefferson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen.
This was your boyfriend. How long had you known each other?
About 2.5 years, almost 3 now.
And you're not together anymore.
Correct.
While you were together, he used your credit card to buy rims for his car.
Correct.
And you say, sir, that it was a gift of love. Yep. Yes. So, Miss Stanoff, why don't you tell me about this rimming?
We were together about 2.5 years, and we ended up breaking up for about 6 to 9 months. We moved in together as roommates. He needed to purchase some rims. He then put $500 down, wrote a check to West Coast Motorsports in Garden Grove, and then proceeded to tell me that that he needed to have the other $1,300 to pay on the rims, or else he was going to lose his $500. So I went down with him. In return, he said that he would pay me back in full. He had gave me a Vaughn's credit card, or I'm sorry, credit union card. Told me that actually there was $30 taken out of his check every week that I could take out to pay the bill back.
So you broke up, he's got the rims and you got the bill. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Go.
Okay, well, we broke up. We moved back in together. We were living there for about a week, and she usually takes me out shopping, buying me stuff whenever I want, when we get in fights or something. And she offered to buy me some rims for my car. She paid for
Why would
them.
she take you out shopping if you have a fight?
That's how she is. Whenever I got mad at her, we got in a fight, she bought me stuff. And she has a record of always, every time we break up, trying to take something back from me. And that's why, like, when we got back together that time, for like 3 years, she made me sign a contract saying that, it was a contract, it was made in 5/30/95, saying that anything, the first thing on there says, whatever you bought me is mine if we break up no matter what. And she signed it and dated it, everything. So that's how she always goes to that stuff. Buys me stuff and then wants to take it back when we break up. When we went to buy the rims, I wrote the check for $500 and she paid the rest with the credit cards. There was no agreement. He was there with me when we bought it. It was us three there. We went there. There's no agreement that I had to pay back, nothing. The reason she got my cash card is
Just a second. Who has the car?
The card?
Car!
No, I sold it.
With the rims?
Yes.
How much after she paid for the rims did you sell the car?
I sold it for $18,500.
Well, I didn't ask you that question, but that's an interesting answer.
How much longer?
What?
How much longer? Just
What word in English didn't you understand?
You said how much the car 3 months ago.
How much after you put the rims on the car did you sell it was my question. You said $18,000, which isn't exactly
2
an
months.
answer, but I'll take it.
2 months.
Had you already broken up with her at the time?
Yeah.
So why didn't you give her back the money for the rims from the car?
Because they were a gift. That's like
what?
They were a gift. That's like I bought her rings and stuff. Am I supposed to take everything back that I bought her?
Let me explain
That's
something
not
to you,
right.
sir. There's a difference between a ring, a piece of jewelry, a watch, a shirt, a tie, a pair of rollerblades. There's a difference between that and 4 rims for your car.
There's no difference. It's material.
How old are you?
20.
Where do you live?
In Hawaiian Gardens.
Who do you live with?
My grandma.
Your grandmother?
Yes.
Where do your parents live?
Just, I don't know. I don't talk to my parents.
You don't know, you don't talk to them?
Yes.
For how long?
For a while. All my life.
What do you mean all your life?
All my life. Like
You mean you've always lived with your grandmother?
Yes.
Is it your mother's mother or your father's mother?
Mom's.
Does she talk to her daughter?
Yes.
You ever been arrested, Mr. Jefferson?
Nah. Nope.
Where do you work?
I don't work now.
Why?
Because I quit. Because I lost my license.
What license?
Driver's license.
Why?
For speeding.
How many times?
3.
And you were never arrested, sir?
Nah, never arrested, no.
And what kind of car was this that you sold for $18,000?
97 Mitsubishi Eclipse.
How'd you buy it?
Financed it.
What kind of work were you doing when you financed it?
I worked for UPS in Vaughn's.
And what happened to those jobs?
I had to lose them because of her.
You lost your UPS job because of her? How did she cause you to lose your UPS job?
That's how it started when she broke into my box and she stole my car keys my checkbooks, all this stuff, and she stole my car from UPS one night because I worked midnight shift. I go in 3 to 9, and I came out, my car wasn't there, and then I came back and it was moved somewhere else. She stole my car, and I couldn't keep letting my car go out. She always threatened me, saying that all my friends they're gonna steal your car, take the rims off, steal your radio. And then Vaughn's, she went in there harassing me all the time. My boss complained
So
to me.
she wanted the money back for the rims or the
No,
rims
she
right
didn't want
from the
the money.
beginning?
Nah, it's not for the money. It's for the love. She missed me. She wanted me still.
Oh, my God. God help her if that's what she wanted. How old are you?
19.
Who do you live with?
My grandmother.
Where are your parents?
My parents are in Norco. I talk to them once a week.
Where?
Norco, North Corona.
And why don't you live at home?
Because it's too far for me to commute now.
Have you ever met his parents?
I've met his mother.
When?
I've met her a few times during the 2.5 years that we were together. I've seen her probably about a year ago. I saw her.
When you saw them, was he there?
Yeah. He's
Did
the one
he-
that introduced me to her.
Does that sound familiar to you, sir?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So it's not that you haven't spoken to your parents or your mother?
I don't talk to them.
Oh, God.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You are a 20-year-old unemployed person who takes from young women because he thinks that he's God's gift. I mean, you're not even good looking.
And later today,
We said to them, we're missing a day of work. They know the money that we do make when we work.
Well, if you're topless entertainers and do stand-up comedy, then you know about contracts.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rachel Stanhoff says her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Jefferson, owes her money he borrowed to buy car rims. Joseph claims the money was a gift.
Listen up, Mr. Jefferson. You owe her for the tire rims. You're 20 years old. You could either be in your life. First of all, you got this dumb look on your face, which is really irritating. This smile, which really is irritating, because it looks to me as if you're trying to get over, and you think you're going to get over me. I'm smarter than you will be if you live to be 170 years old. Right? Do you understand that? Because you are either so thick or so impervious to what's right because you had no moral upbringing that I really feel sorry for you. And maybe that accounts for this ridiculous look on your face. But what I'm telling you is, you could either be a nice person or you could be a taker and a sucker all your life, sucking off other people. And it sounds to me as if you started your young life being a sucker off other people, taking advantage of other people and thinking that you have some gift, some special gift. I tell you right now, I got 3 sons, right? And I'm looking at you and I'm saying, you are no gift to anybody.
You give it.
You are no gift. You are a 20-year-old unemployed person who takes from young women because he thinks that he's God's gift. I mean, you're not even good looking. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,255. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
And now the next case.
Charges on Kaufman Smith versus Rodriguez. Step forward, please.
Bikini models Jennifer Kaufman and Kim Smith are suing magazine publisher David Rodriguez because he used their photos in his magazine but never paid them.
You two ladies posed for some photographs that were in the defendant's magazine. You claim that he promised to pay you. He didn't. Is that what this case is about?
Yes. It is.
Well, who's going to speak first?
I would like to.
What's your name?
Jennifer Kaufman.
Okay.
We met Dave through some mutual friends, and we met at a local restaurant. And we had discussed, he said he was going to do some catalog work and a lot of different stuff, and we were excited for him, and we had discussed doing some pictures for him. And so
He wanted to set up a photo shoot for the bathing suit company.
for the bathing suit company.
Yeah.
And we went, he set up the photo shoot. Well, we didn't make the first one. And at the restaurant, he said, well, at the sign of release, if we like your pictures, and we'll go from there.
The photographer then called us and insisted that we come on Father's Day and do this. And they said if they decide to publish our pictures, then we will then sit down and talk about a contract and be compensated for our work. Then some girls came up to us and said, yeah, we saw your picture in the San Antonio Sports Magazine. We were like, what? And we never signed anything. May I also add there's pictures floating around the internet.
So what you're telling me is you didn't have a contract with him?
We were supposed to, if the pictures were
If
to
they
be
liked the
published,
pictures, they didn't, yeah.
then we would
If
sit
they-
down and talk about them.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living?
We're entertainers.
And
What
I do
kind of
stand-up comedy.
entertainers?
We're both topless entertainers, and I do stand-up comedy.
Well, if you're topless entertainers and do stand-up comedy, then you know about contracts. So you're going to do these pictures, right, for some sort of compensation if the pictures were published. But you hadn't discussed the compensation with him.
If they decided to use our pictures, then that's what we were to discuss.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Did you ever hear speak when spoken to? Sit down. I'm not ready for witnesses yet.
Okay.
Good. So you hadn't had an amount of money that you agreed on, even if they used your pictures.
Well, we said to them, we're missing a day of work. They know the money that we do make when we work, and it's a very hard lesson. We did learn a lesson from this.
Good. So what are you here for?
To be compensated for?
Be compensated for the work that was done.
And
well,
our
how
pictures
much
are
do you think? How much do you think you should be compensated?
$750 for each job.
And how many jobs did you do?
2.
You each did 2?
The first job we did was for a clothesline. It was runway modeling for the other photographer.
Well, don't tell me about the other photographer. You're talking about this. You're talking about this swimsuit issue, right?
Right. Yes.
So you think you should be compensated $750 a piece? That's $1,500, right? What about $500 a piece for the day? No, I'm just asking. What about $500?
May I say I have no animosity toward Dave. It has nothing to do with. It's just it's about work. It's about the job that we done. We're not compensated for. We trusted in his word, and that's what was understood.
Well, you know, if that was the case, if she had no animosity toward me, she called my advertisers trying to say that I was a liar. I mean, I go on my word.
Never said that.
I don't have any proof to show you, but my clients call me and say, you know, we have 2 girls calling trying to get our insurance company to pay them money. And this is one of my clients, I can't say who they are, and they said, why were they calling me? I have nothing to do with your
Mr. Rodriguez,
yes.
You took pictures of them, correct?
I didn't. A
photographer did. For your magazine?
Yes.
And you make money from this magazine from selling advertising space,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
So it would seem to me that if you sold advertising space, and this is that way you make your living, then you compensate the people who work for you. So you use their pictures.
Yes.
And how did you compensate them?
Okay, this is the deal.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Not here's the deal.
Okay.
You use their pictures in a product that you made from which you make a living from selling advertising.
Yes.
And my question to you is, how did you compensate them?
I told them they would get trade, that they would get a swimsuit. The company said they would provide each girl a swimsuit.
Why would we want...
Just put your hand down.
For their services, for posting in the magazine.
Are you kidding me or what?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And I'm not going to hire 2 strippers. I'm going to go after a modeling agency. That's what I would do if I'm going to pay anybody to model on a magazine.
First of all, a stripper's not what you do, it's who you are.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bikini models Jennifer Kaufman and Kim Smith say magazine publisher David Rodriguez published their photos without paying them. David claims they agreed to let him use the photos for free.
Did you give him the swimsuit?
Well,
not well.
Yes, one of them has a swimsuit.
The one that they were wearing
One
that
of them,
day?
yes.
The one that they were wearing that day?
Yes.
Well, you know, you can't go out and sell those things again. I mean, you can't go out and sell them once you use it.
Exactly.
You know, once you use it,
Yes,
you bought it.
exactly.
So you're telling me, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
You expect me to believe, sir, that you got all the free talent to make your magazine, and in exchange for that, they were supposed to get a bathing suit.
Yes.
I don't usually ask these questions because it's not a good idea. Lawyers should never do that. Why would you think that they would do that?
This is the reason why.
I'm waiting.
Every year, I have an annual swimsuit issue. I get tons of photographs from women who want to be in the swimsuit issue. It's one of my biggest issues of the year. I don't pay one model to be in my swimsuit issue, not one. Out of all the models that I use, I have 13 models. I have these 2 girls saying they want to get paid. 2 girls out of 13 models. Does that make any sense there?
Can I see the magazine, please?
Well, we don't know what they discussed with them, but what we discussed with him is totally different.
Well, I have
no, let me tell you something. You didn't really discuss anything with him, because when you discuss something with him, then you make a price. I could just as easily say to you, listen, ladies, you didn't discuss with him what the price was for your work that day, which is what you're supposed to do. So I believe that you should be compensated. Looks to me like you had a pretty good time. $50 seems like a nice amount of money. I mean, I could say that to you. You're supposed to be smarter. I mean, if this is your business, if you're in the entertainment business, you're supposed to use your noodles.
But the fact of the matter is, too, that they contacted me. Here's the deal here. She called me wanting to be in my swimsuit issue. So I said I would meet with them. I met with them right on the table. Think of it. I have all these models. I mean, I have real models. I mean, I could have, if I was going to pay anybody, I'm going to hire a modeling agency. I'm not going to get...
Do real models not get paid?
Well, let me ask you
I'm not going to hire 2 strippers. I'm going to go after a modeling agency. That's what I would do if I'm going to pay anybody to model on a magazine.
First of all, a stripper's not what you do, it's who you are.
Okay, well...
Let me ask you this question, sir. They took a lot of photographs of these
Yes.
young ladies, right? Where are the photographs that they took of these young ladies?
The photographer has them. They are his pictures.
around the internet.
Some of them you have.
Yes.
Because you clearly went through some of them.
Sure,
and-
to edit it and go through it and decide
Ah.
which ones were the best, yes.
Well, let us assume for the moment that there was some sort of a misunderstanding. And in addition to being compensated by getting a swimsuit, and quite frankly, ladies, I can understand why ladies who are in the entertainment field would like to have the kind of exposure that this magazine, I mean, it looks like a perfectly nice magazine. It's got a picture of nice young ladies in bathing suits and very athletic-looking young men. I mean, there's nothing untoward about these pictures. Why you might want to have your picture in this kind of magazine, right? I assume you like that idea.
Yeah, you like
Right?
it.
I assume you like that idea.
Sure.
Okay. And the money wasn't really that important to you because if it was that important to you and if it was your business, you would have made a price with him and you would have entered into a written contract with him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't take much stock in the fact that there was some sort of a breach of contract. But Mr. Rodriguez,
Well, can I say something? Okay.
I'm not going to take any longer with this case than it's worth. It's not worth a lot, sir. I've already told them that they're not getting $3,000, they're not getting $1,500 because you didn't have a contract price, and I don't intend to make a contract now when there was none before.
But do I get anything for the models that now, since they ruined it with the swimsuit issue, they do not want to give the models that I owe swimsuits to? Now I have to, what do I do now? What do I do now?
Listen, what am I, your mother? What am I, your mother? You got a countersuit here? You have a countersuit here?
Well, I didn't, there was not time.
That
Well-
time, shoulda, woulda, coulda. You know, you're a businessman. I'm not your mother. I don't intend to solve all your problems, sir, and stop chewing gum in my courtroom. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Yes.
You have some pictures of them that I think that they would probably like to have.
Yes.
Wouldn't you like to have the photographs?
Yes, we would.
That would be very nice. At least they
Sure,
could
I
put
have
that in their portfolio, right?
Well, since they're the photographer's pictures, I
I'm
mean,
talking about the ones,
the ones
you
I have. Yes, yes. Gladly I'd give them to him.
Perfect. By tomorrow. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 306 on the calendar in the matter of Thomas versus Lewis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Thomas, your lawsuit alleges that the defendant filed false allegations against you of sexual harassment, causing you, at least temporarily, to lose your job and suffer all kinds of emotional trauma and stress and embarrassment.
Yes.
Did you work together in the same office?
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me how you knew her.
We cordially met in the lobby area, and
In the lobby of a building where you both worked?
yes,
What kind of work were you doing?
I'm in the security field.
So you were a security officer.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And, from time to time we spoke, and then every now and then we went to lunch, socialized and talked everything. And everything was pretty cool. There was a
There
situation.
came a time when you alleged that you lent money to the defendant.
Yes.
And that precipitated her making these allegations against you.
Yes.
Well, tell me about that, sir.
Okay. Well, as I said, she was having some problems. And she asked my assistance as far as loaning her some money for a motel that she had wanted to stay in to relocate from the current place she was at. And so, I went and I assisted her in that matter. She stayed there for a couple of weeks.
How much money did you actually loan her?
Well, it wasn't a direct cash flow. I utilized my a credit card, so I would be able to keep a record in the future.
How much?
$250.
Okay. $250.
Yes, $250.88.
Okay, so you helped her out with the motel from moving from one place to another.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Then at that time her apartment was ready, and she again asked my assistance to help her relocate to the apartment. Well, she didn't have the funds required to rent out the truck, so she asked if I could utilize my credit to rent the truck out, and then once we've completed the move, she would reimburse me of the initial truck use funds.
And how much was that altogether?
Altogether, that was $57.24 for the truck and $6.25 for gas to refuel the truck.
Now, did she pay you back any of this money?
No.
So there came a time when you started to ask her for the money?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Okay, the disagreement arose around the time when we were trying to negotiate a way to return the truck. Well, apparently she was agitated because I didn't want to loan her my credit card and so she can return the truck and then return the credit card back to me. So that pretty much fueled the disagreement. Well, to pretty much separate myself, I said, well, go ahead, return the money that you owe me, this is the money that you owe me, and we'll just go our separate ways. She responded in a threatful manner, basically stating that, you know, if you don't leave me alone, you're going to regret that you ever met me. So I left it alone Sunday, and Monday morning I called her again, you know, once again trying to see if we can't negotiate this in a mature manner. She wouldn't speak to me, so what I did is I conjured up a letter to her and just basically broke down everything that she had owed me.
Okay, so you sent her a letter.
Yes.
When did she make these allegations against you of sexual harassment?
I sent the letter to her Monday, and the allegations were brought to my attention that Thursday.
Okay. To make a long story short,
Yes.
the charges were subsequently all dismissed.
Yes.
But you had to be transferred to a different location. You took a decrease in pay according to your papers. Is that
yes,
right?
What had happened is that they had pretty much put me in rover status, where I worked at certain assignments for the going price that they were
So
paying
you earned
officers.
less, Mr.
Yes.
Thomas. You earned less. But you're suing her for $5,000, clearly much more than this. And the reason you're suing her for $5,000 is because you say she wrongfully made these accusations against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Let me hear from you.
Well, Your Honor, first of all, we did work in the same building. When I met John, I told him from the beginning that I'm not looking for anyone. Okay, I moved out here from another state. I came out in January. I secured a job in February. Then we met, I think, in March. He would come up to me, give me candy, walk with me while I was on break, and I told him strictly that I just wanted a platonic friendship and nothing more. John continued to, everywhere I was, he seemed to automatically show up. He was a friend to me. You know, we went out a couple times to the movies. I never asked John for any help of any type of monetary source because I make 3 times more money than he makes, okay? I never asked John for any money. He insisted that he knew where I was staying at a motel downtown. I was happy with that. I knew I was going to stay there until I secured an apartment, which is what I did. But the reason he wanted me to move because he did not have access to me the way that he wanted access to me, because it was a security building and there was no visitors allowed in the building. So he suggested to me that I move to another motel in Culver City.
This is the first hotel that you were in?
This is the first hotel that I was at. This is the hotel I planned to stay at until I found my apartment. He knew I was looking for an apartment. He knew I was looking for a car. He went around and got numbers for apartments. Oh, you should move here. He even went to his complex, suggested I go there, and I decided the same day not to move there because he was...
Stop for a second.
Okay.
Sound like a very intelligent, together lady. Right? And you just told me that you were really happy with where you were staying, and you were going to stay there until you found a permanent apartment.
Right.
But you moved.
Right.
Into a different motel.
Right.
One that he was happier with.
Right. I moved.
Why?
Because it was closer to my job. Right now, I had an hour-and-a-half commute from downtown to Westwood.
So?
And I decided to take his offer up because it was nicer, it was closer to my job.
Fine.
Okay.
And he laid out some money for you.
No, he did not. I was paying a certain weekly amount of rent by the week where I was. I had that money. Only thing he had to put with the money was another $40.
Whether it was $40 or 40 pennies.
Okay.
According to him, it was $250.88. According to you, it was $40. You
Okay.
just told me that you earned 3 times as much money as he did. Why in the world would you take $40 from him? Why?
Because I did not have the money at the time. I was between pay periods.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I have a greeting card from her, and the title says, "To the man of my dreams."
Once I dreamed of someone special. Now I know that I was dreaming of you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Thomas says his former friend Denise Lewis falsely accused him of sexual harassment. Denise says John is angry because their friendship never turned into romance.
Now, when did you make this report of sexual harassment?
After the week after I moved into my apartment.
Why?
Because he tried to force himself on me after we moved the refrigerator and the bedroom furniture into my apartment.
Well, tell me about that, madam.
Okay, after the things were moved into the apartment, he laid down on we put everything in the living room because I had to paint the bedroom. He laid down on the mattress and he called me in there and he threw me down on the mattress and started making sexual moves on me. And it took me about a couple minutes to push him off of me, and I asked him to leave.
And he left?
After some screaming and yelling, and yes, he did.
What kind of screaming and yelling?
I was screaming to get out of my apartment, that you don't live here.
And he left?
After some time, and he left when he got ready to leave.
So that's when you filed a complaint of sexual harassment against him?
Not only for that reason, was because the Saturday morning when he was supposed to come back and get the truck, I asked him to leave. We had an argument. I asked him to leave.
So you still had the truck?
The truck is still there. He has the keys to the truck.
Okay. So he said, so he had his car and he wanted you to help him take the truck back.
Right.
And what happened then?
I didn't open the door for him.
Why?
Because I was upset with him because of what he had tried to do. Okay, he never came to me and asked me to try and work things out, to try and say, okay, I owe you this money, let's try and make some type of arrangements. The next thing I knew, he had left a letter on the counter of where I work, and it was a bill for how much he assumed that I owe him.
So tell me when you made this allegation of sexual harassment, after you got the bill?
No, I made it like a few days later because he was calling and harassing me at work.
He was calling and asking you for what?
He was calling, he said he wanted to get together and talk. And I said, I don't want anything else to do with you because of your behavior, because you have been harassing me.
When did you make that statement to him?
I made it on Monday. And I asked him not to call me again, and that I will pay him his money.
So did you pay him the money?
No, I did not. Because
Why?
Because he kept harassing me.
Just a minute, why didn't you pay him the money? Maybe if you paid him the money, he would stop harassing you. Maybe if you paid him the bill, he would feel as if he wasn't so used.
Yeah.
And then he would leave you alone.
Yeah, well, maybe if he had come to me as an adult and not someone threatening me with gang violence and I'm going to get the Bloods to kill you and this and that, maybe if would have come to me in an appropriate manner, I would have been more than happy to settle with him, just like I tried to call him 2 weeks ago. And I asked him, why did you file this lawsuit against me? And I said, can we come to some kind of agreement because I want this to go away? And his comment was, after several moments of silence, at 27 years old, was, you started it.
Well, Miss Lewis, you started it. Let me tell you something. I'm a woman, and I take allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace very seriously. But I resent it when women use allegations of sexual harassment as one-upmanship. And I'm telling you right now, the story that's coming through my head is an older lady with a lot more experience has a guy 5, 6 years younger than she is who is clearly smitten with her. And what's coming out of her mouth is, No, no, yes, yes. No, no, yes, yes.
No.
You let him move you into another apartment? You're a smart lady. All you had to do was say, I'm happy where I am, John. I don't mind having coffee with you when we're here. You seem like a nice young man, but, you know, this is not a romantic thing. So you let him help you out once. And instead of doing the nice thing, the right thing, by totally cutting him off so that you're fair to him, you're not playing mind games with his head, you call him again when you need help. So he's saying to himself, she really likes me. I don't care what she says. She's letting me rent a truck with her and move her stuff into her apartment and help her place the furniture where it is. So clearly, she may be saying no, no, but her eyes are saying yes, yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She strategically planned it to where I lost out on a promotion. I lost out on a raise.
Oh.
And, you know,
from $5 to $7. Wow.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Security guard John Thomas is suing Denise Lewis for defamation after she accused him of sexual harassment.
You're in your apartment. The furniture and the refrigerator are all set. Then you want no part of him. Well, he doesn't know that, so then he calls you and says, now I feel used, now I want my money. Your response was to file allegations of sexual harassment against him. I don't hear any sexual harassment, madam. He moved you into your apartment. He thought you were encouraging him. He left when you told him to leave. You may say you yelled and screamed, but I don't believe that there was any kind of attempted rape there. I don't believe that for 1 second. And your response was to try to injure him in his profession, which was a security guard. That's not fair.
Just because two people are friends does not mean that, okay, just because one party wants to go forward with a relationship and the other doesn't, that's not, I don't think that's encouraging.
Miss Lewis, you know that he wants romance and you don't. You don't use him.
He took advantage of me.
Oh, baloney.
He did. Oh. He knew that I lived out here by myself.
Nobody takes advantage of you, madam. I've known you for 5 minutes, and I can tell you right now, nobody takes advantage of you if you don't want that to happen. You took advantage of him. And the right thing to do was to let him know unequivocally from the beginning, this is not going anywhere, and not do anything to encourage him. Nothing to encourage him. And what you did was encourage him by continuing to allow him into your life. You have something you want me to hear? Is that why you brought that?
Yes, due to her statement, she says that she never made any attempt to encourage me or whatnot. Here I have a greeting card from her, dated April 4th, and the title says, "To the man of my dreams."
Can I see it?
So,
just a minute. Show this to the defendant and tell her if that signature looks familiar to her.
Yes, it does.
Uh-huh.
This card was not intended for him.
Well, why don't you tell me how you got this card, sir?
She gave me the card around that time. This was the envelope that she gave it to me in.
Can I see it, please? Why don't you try to explain that to me, Miss Lewis? How did he come into possession of a card that wasn't meant for him? Why don't you try to tell me that?
He took it out of my briefcase when he was giving me a ride to work. That card was not intended for him.
Who was it intended for?
Someone else.
Someone else who also moved furniture?
No.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Once I dreamed of someone special, now I know that I was dreaming of you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I have never been interested in him. You know, I'm not interested in overweight men.
You used him, Miss Lewis. And then in order to get rid of him, you filed a complaint against him for sexual harassment. Oh, yes, that's exactly what you did. And you injured him. You injured him in his job. You had him moved from his job. He suffered embarrassment. He suffered humiliation. And at least something else that I find equally as disturbing is we have finally reached a point in this country, at the end of this century, where we do not permit people of either sex to be sexually harassed in their workplace. And unfortunately, it's because of ladies like you that people look at these lawsuits and wonder if they are all real. That diminishes the real allegations of sexual abuse and of sexual harassment in the workplace. It's not supposed to be used as a hammer to solve all the problems that you have. It's supposed to be used sparingly and when it's true.
You don't know that it's not true?
Oh, I know that it's not true, madam. I know that you used him.
That's not true.
You used him. You knew he was smitten with you. You used him. And when you were finished with him and he wouldn't leave you alone, in order to get rid of him so that you didn't have to look at him anymore, you filed an allegation of sexual harassment against him that was ultimately investigated and dismissed because you have been reinstated, correct?
And it was not the first of its kind.
I haven't asked you about your history either. Right? Whether this is a modus operandi for you. We understand each other, Miss Lewis?
Your Honor, this is case number 310 on the calendar in the matter of Wilson Chadez versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Are you two folks married?
No.
Dating?
Yes.
Do you live together?
No.
I have co-complaints. One $4,000 filed by you, the other $500
Yes.
filed by you, and you are claiming that the defendant, while in the company of several others, assaulted you by throwing bottles which shattered on you.
Correct.
And the car.
And the car that you were in. And according to your complaint, sir, you were in a car with a lot of other people.
Yes, limo bus.
A bus. A limo bus. So why don't you first tell me about this limo bus, and then we'll get to what happened with it.
It was mine and my twin brother's 21st birthday, and we rented it so that all our friends could gather together, all go as one, no one would drink and drive, and then we'd go bar hopping.
And you did that?
Yes.
What time did you board this bus?
Approximately around 8.
And how many bars had you been to before you came on the plaintiffs?
1.
What time did this occur?
About 11:30.
You hit more than one bar between 8 and 11:30?
No, ma'am.
So you stayed in that bar for how long?
A couple hours.
Okay.
We also, I mean, we drove around. It's a nice bus. I mean, you like to spend time in it. It has a VCR, a sound system, everything like that. People can dance, walk around. It's very large.
And how many people were in this bus?
Approximately 25, give or take a few.
And you paid for the bus?
No.
And they...
Everyone pitched in the same amount, about approximately $20.
Now, you spent a couple of hours in a bar, one bar, you said. Is that right?
Yes.
So you made another stop or two on the way. Go to a liquor store?
Yes.
How many liquor stores did you go to?
Okay, we stopped off at a supermarket when we first entered the bus, got some alcohol, drinks, whatnot, went to the, went to the first bar, spent some time there, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I don't know. And then we went to the next liquor store.
So you bought liquor twice?
Yes.
So everyone was pretty well blotto?
No.
Well, when we ran into the defendant here, they were pretty much intoxicated.
Well, why don't you tell me how, unfortunately, you came upon this birthday party?
Well, we had just come home from Barbara's parents' house. It was about 11:30 at night. The only entranceway into our house is through an alley. At that point, we were living together. Now we're not. There was a limo bus parked blocking the entire alleyway. It was parked illegally. People were outside of the bus urinating on the buildings, and they had open containers. We waited a few minutes. We honked, tried to get them to move up. They didn't comply. At that point, Barbara got out of the vehicle and asked one of the members to move.
Somebody that was outside of the bus?
Correct.
Where was the driver of the bus?
We were at the rear end of the bus. We approached the first person we saw.
The driver of the bus was in there the whole time.
Just a second. So you approached Barbara, the first person that you saw at the rear of the bus, and said, could you please move?
Yeah, asked very politely, and he just slurred in my face and told me to screw off, go around, we're not doing it. And I just didn't know what to do and asked him to get out of the car, which he did.
Your Honor?
Sit. So did you get out of...
When she entered the vehicle again, and I could tell that they told her no, I then got out of the car. Now, keep
What's
in
your
mind,
first name?
John.
John! My first issue with you, sir, is what?
Couldn't tell you.
Can you tell him?
I think so.
You came across a bunch of people that you saw outside urinating on buildings, John. You don't send your girlfriend out of the car to tell them to move. You get out of the car to tell them to move.
This was, we didn't see all this until we got out of the car, till both of us were out of the car.
I mean, I don't see late at night you going by yourself to this group of people. You know.
There was a lot of girls, too, a lot of young girls around with them, too. I mean, it just looked like a bunch of partiers, so we didn't think anything of it. We asked politely. When they were rude and everything, that's when we just got back in our car and waited.
Who did you ask?
Hey, listen to me.
We never got off the bus. We never, my cousin, this is my cousin right here.
This is my witness.
And my teammate, and we never got off the bus ever.
Did I ask you a question?
Well, I can't stand and listen to people laugh.
Just a second, did I ask you a question?
No, ma'am.
Go ahead.
When Barbara entered the vehicle, I got out of the vehicle, went up to the first person I saw and said, hey, this is the only way to get to our house. Can you please move up the bus? When I got out of the vehicle, of course, other members of the party came up. They see a guy coming out, automatically everybody's instincts comes into play, and then when they create a confrontation. As soon as he said no, I threw up my hands and said, okay. I mean, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to go up to a whole group of guys and pick a fight with them.
So what
Two
did
or
you
three,
do?
yeah, whole group, no. At that point, we got back in the vehicle and waited. This is a very busy street. We have a large police force that patrols the area. I figured, hey, we'll get in the car, a cop's going to come by. These people are going to get busted. They're plastered. No cop came by. We waited about 2-3 minutes. People started getting back in the bus. It pulled up. At that point, we said, great. Pulled into the alleyway, go up, I'd say, about 50 feet to our fence, which you have to get out of the car to unlock the padlock to get into our driveway. When I exited the car to unlock the gate, I heard, hey, you want to start something? I turned to my left. I saw a group of guys coming at me with bottles in hand. As soon as I saw this group approaching us, I turned to Barbara and I said, get in the car now. At that point, she looked at me, eye contact, a bottle flew right past her face. Hit the car, exploded. Dove into the car, and we gunned it. As soon as we slammed the doors, the back window shattered from a beer bottle. Okay, bottles, plural, lots of bottles. We immediately sped up. I mean, I don't know how we didn't hit nothing going down our alley, going that fast. Went directly to 7-Eleven down the road and called 911. At that point, the bus pulls by, stops at the red light. All the members on the left-hand side of the bus roll down their window and laugh at us while we're standing there calling the police.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is going to be a more expensive birthday party than you thought. Much more expensive.
And later today,
His mother doesn't want him to have this car. He knew that, which is why he kept it a secret. You took advantage of him.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Wilson and Barbara Chaydez say Quincy Smith and his pals harassed and threw beer bottles at them during a drunken bus ride. Quincy claims he's innocent and not responsible for his friend's actions.
So the windshield was shattered. The back windshield was shattered
Correct.
on your car. And who was hit with the glass?
I was barely missed by it, and it hit my car door and shattered all over me. I had to take a shower and take all my, totally change and everything, because I had glass everywhere.
What was the damage to the car?
We have pictures.
We have
of the
pictures and
vehicle.
bills.
Now, once the police did arrive to come take our statement, they immediately got a priority call that there had been an altercation at a bar down the street, so they had to leave us. Well, it turns out the altercation was this member and his party had stopped at their next bar and assaulted 2 police officers.
Undercover cops or something. We don't know the whole story.
Okay, now I'll hear from you.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that I have empathy for the plaintiffs. What happened to was an awful thing. Should never happen to anyone. But I know for a fact they can't say I did it because I never even got off the bus. They can never pinpoint me out. I didn't get off the bus. I don't know what happened off the bus. I mean, even if the bus driver would have saw something, I mean, it was his responsibility to stay there.
Which bus company did you use?
It was, I believe it was called VIP limo buses.
When you called them, how many people did you say were going to be on the bus?
About approximately 25. You can get, the buses they have will fill 20 to 25, and I believe they even have one larger than that.
And when you called the bus company, did you have to reserve the bus with a credit card?
No.
When did you pay them?
You pay a deposit down,
Well,
and then when,
a
okay,
deposit-
then when they arrive, you pay the rest.
Well, I'm asking you,
Okay.
did you pay the deposit in cash or a credit card?
Check.
A check?
Yes.
Yours or your brother's?
Mine.
Yours. So let me understand this, Mr. Smith.
Okay.
You rented the bus.
Yes.
You, sir, are absolutely right that these people can, in all probability, not say who it was who threw a bottle other than the group. Is that right?
That's correct.
That doesn't make you not responsible for this incident, sir.
It didn't even happen on the bus that I was responsible for.
Oh, it happened, sir.
It happened,
with
yes.
people. It happened with people that you invited to celebrate your birthday on a bus. You are still, sir, responsible for the behavior of those people. You. Because somebody is guilty and somebody is innocent. Now, they don't know who it is, but you, who arranged this party, are responsible for their losses because you are in the unique position, sir, if you are not drunk, to know who in that party got off the bus and who in that party actually damaged their property and attempted to assault them with what I consider a deadly instrument, which is a heavy beer bottle.
So,
not them. They're not in that unique position to know. You are.
So I'm responsible for everyone on the bus.
Every single person.
On the bus and off.
Every single.
Everyone who was also an adult.
Every single person that was partying with you at your birthday party, sir. You hired the bus.
I never got off the bus. I don't know.
Doesn't make any difference, sir.
It does to me.
This is going to be a more expensive birthday party than you thought. Much more expensive. Now, you have something that you believe is meaningful to this case that you wish to contribute?
Yeah, I do, Your Honor.
Sure.
First of all,
Step up right there.
Okay, I'm sorry. My cousin and myself never got off the bus at any point. And
Didn't you understand what I just said?
I don't know how you can expect him to keep track of 25 people.
He invited them to his bus.
So how is he supposed to keep track of it if
If
they're
he
all
can't
adults?
if he can't keep track of them, then he shouldn't have invited them. And if they didn't do anything wrong, then he wouldn't be standing here today, sir.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. And later today,
He had it for a week and a half. He's blown the motor in it now. What good is it to me?
When you deal with a minor, you deal with a minor at your own risk.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
He invited them to come on board for a drinking evening. He is therefore responsible for everything that transpires during the course of that evening. And one of the things that transpired was these people were put in fear of their lives. And if he wishes to turn around and do some detective work and try to figure out who it was that got off the bus and threw bottles at them and smashed their cars,
I hope he would.
That's no, you.
No, I
not
hope he
them.
would. My cousin doesn't want to be here. If do you think if he knew who did it, he would be taking the blame for this?
Well,
I can't
then
afford
he
to
should
be
have
here.
been
I
more
afford here.
selective about who he invited on the bus. And he should have seen to it that once the people on the bus started to drink a little too much and started to get a little out of control, he said to the bus driver, who he had hired, because you remember, he sent the check, he hired the bus. These people are a little too unruly. You better take us home because I don't know what's going to happen with them. You, sir, between these innocents and you, you're responsible. Judgment in this case is for one plaintiff in the amount, Barbara, in the amount of $1,000, and you, sir, the amount of $500 as requested. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. There you go. Sorry. I'll get back though to your record, please.
These people do deserve money, but I believe I'm not the one responsible for it. I think I would have been much better off using a different defense, like the bloody glove defense. This is just ridiculous.
And now the next case.
All parties on Schramm Snyder versus Blankenship. Step forward, please.
Bookkeeper Vera Schramm says her neighbor, 29-year-old Marcy Blankenship, ripped off her 15-year-old son Toby when she sold him a car that doesn't run.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
You went and bought a car from the defendant.
Yes.
Did you tell your parents?
No.
Why?
Because I thought they'd say no.
How much did you pay for this car?
$400.
Where'd you get the money from?
My bank account.
When did you find out that he had bought the car?
Almost a week later, on November 4th.
You're his mother?
Yes.
Tell me how you found out that he bought the car.
I had called his friend's house to see if he was there. And while I was on the phone, the other parent said, by the way, I'm a little concerned about what we're going to do with Toby's car. I said, car? What do you mean car? Like vehicle? He says, oh yeah, it's parked out on the street, and what are we going to do for street sweeping day? I said, didn't know anything about it. Where did he get it? How long has he had it? So of course we went right over and visited the car and the parents, and I got the paperwork.
Now, you were keeping this a secret?
Yes.
How old were you when you bought the car?
15.
How did you find this car?
I was walking home from my friend's house and I just saw it on the street.
They have a for sale sign?
Yes.
How much were they asking for the car?
$700.
So you paid $400?
Yes.
Who drove the car to where it was ultimately parked?
We pushed it because it didn't run.
How far did you have to push it?
Like 6 or 7 blocks.
Did you ever move the car?
Oh, yeah, and we pushed it to the mechanic. Because she said all it needed was a tune-up, so we pushed it because it was right by his house.
Did you get it tuned up?
Yes.
How much did that cost you?
$55.
And then what happened with the car?
Still didn't run because we took it and we got we got it checked and stuff, and it said that one of the cylinders was bad, so.
What'd your mother say when she found out you bought this car?
She was real mad. And then she put me on punishment.
Where'd you get this $400 from? Did you work for the money?
I went to work in the summer with my dad.
So, you sold him a car.
Yes, I did.
Did you ask him how old he was?
No, I didn't.
Doesn't look 18 to me.
He knew about the car. He phoned 3 times on the car. He came by inquiring about the car twice. I asked him if the first night he came by if he wanted to drive it or if he wanted to leave me a deposit, and I would be more than happy to take the for sale signs off of it. He said no, he didn't have his wallet with him. So I figured he didn't want to drive it because he didn't have his license with him, and that was fine. I showed him the car in and out. I started it up for him and everything, and he didn't have a problem with it. He said it was perfect. He'd be back the next day to please not sell it.
How come I asked you if he doesn't look 18 and you give me this whole long story? Doesn't look 18 to me. Now, you may not know this, but I'm going to tell you now. You cannot enter into a contract with a minor because they're not always so clever. So that's why we have laws that protect minors from entering into contracts. So you have to give him his money back.
He had it for a week and a half. He's blown the motor in it now. What good is it to me?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Vera Schramm is suing Marcy Blankenship because she sold her 15-year-old son Toby a car that doesn't run. Marcy claims she didn't know Toby was a minor.
When you deal with a minor, you deal with a minor at your own risk. Anybody who has half an eye can see that this young man is not the age of majority. You took advantage of him. I believe that you took advantage of him. And you can't do that. So you owe him $400. Sir, you paid $55 to have the car tuned up?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have to eat that.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a form of punishment. I'm sure your mother has something else planned for you if she hasn't already conjured up the appropriate punishment, including, at 15 years old, would seem to me, requiring somebody else to sign off if he wants to go take money out of the bank.
Absolutely. That's a lesson to be learned.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Mm-hmm.
So, Judge...
Judge, this is case number 316 on the calendar in the matter of Flores versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Flores, your mother died suddenly. How old was she when she died?
73.
And you claim at the time of her death, the defendant owed her money. And why she gave him money?
Okay. At the time of her death, we went through her financial matters, and with her checkbook and her bank statements was her ledger. My mom was a bookkeeper for 45 years. My mom would not just knowingly give him a gift and write it down. I mean, if she gave a gift, she would not write it down. So
you can't go in somebody else's head.
That's correct.
Even if they're no longer here.
Right.
So you found her ledger.
Yes, I did. And with this ledger, I found his name. Yes, I did. And with this ledger, I found his name, Donald Smith, of which I didn't know. I knew of him, but I've never met him before.
How did you know of him?
By my daughter, Tammy. Tammy had gone to dinner with them one evening. And my mom paid for dinner, which Tammy thought was kind of strange. Anyway, from there,
Not in the 90s.
Okay, giving him money to gamble. And Tammy goes, well, that's kind of strange. When she came back home, she said, something strange is going on here. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, he's taking money from her. Well, I mean, I didn't think anything about that till I found the ledger saying that there were bills incurred for Don. Doctor bills, loans to Don, more doctor bills, Mervyn's charge cards. Also, she had just recently purchased you furniture, of which my mother also calls Mervyn's charge cards. Also, she had just recently purchased you furniture, of which my mother also kept a daily log of telephone calls that were made to him, saying whether he called, whether he didn't call. It seemed like when he had his appointments, he would call her. She would also take him to work on a daily basis, which was like across town. They live in Las Vegas. She lives on the east side of town. He lives in North Las Vegas. So it was quite a commute for her.
So what?
And
I mean, what does that mean to you, Miss Flores?
I mean that he was constantly calling and asking her to do things for him.
So what? Is there anything wrong with your mother's mind?
There wasn't at the time of her death, not that I know of.
And she was 73 years old, which today is not an old person.
Right. She was killed in a car accident. She hit a tree.
So let's just talk about the money that she gave him to go gambling, when they were out to pay for. That's really none of your business.
That is correct.
So, and I assume that you don't suggest that you're looking to recoup that money from him.
Absolutely not. Only what was borrowed.
Well, so that what I'd like you to do is to show me, because that's primarily what I'm going to look at.
Right, it's right here. Also, here are credit card bills, of which it says Dawn owes for these, that were in her ledger. And here also is the furniture that she had purchased a month before she died.
Well, who wrote Dawn owes for that?
My mother.
Let me see.
Okay. Any and all transactions. Okay.
Okay. What was your mother's name?
Helen Roy.
She was a client, a steady client, and I did her hair.
Any and all transactions. Okay.
Okay. What was your mother's name?
Helen Roy.
She was a client, a steady client, and I did her hair. And struck up a friendship, and after I graduated, she just followed me. I still did her hair in the salons I was at, and the friendship still developed from there. She didn't talk to her kids a lot, and I didn't have any family.
That is not true. I'm telling you, that's not true. My phone bills.
Listen to me.
Okay.
He was quiet, now you have to be quiet.
All right.
From what she told me, she didn't have the best relationship with him because they had owed her money. She had loaned them $10,000 to get their house years ago and had never even attempted to pay her back, and they did have a contract with her. So that made a gap between them. She did take me to work if I needed. She made sure.
I'm not concerned about her taking you to work, sir. I'm not concerned.
She did take me to work if I needed. She made sure.
I'm not concerned about her taking you to work, sir. I'm not concerned about her taking you to dinner. This is a lady who, I assume, was a little lonely, and she found your company appealing, and she wanted to spend her money on you. That's her business.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I didn't have any family growing up. She showed me what a nice a grandmother and a mother was.
Aww.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Neilani Flores is suing her late mother's hairdresser, Donald Smith, for loans he never repaid.
Miss Flores, I'm looking, is one page that you're talking about?
The 2 pages,
well,
yes.
These 2 pages.
Yes.
And the others clearly indicate bills incurred for Dawn.
Correct.
That doesn't necessarily, madam, convince me that those were loans. Clearly indicate bills incurred for Dawn.
Correct.
That doesn't necessarily, madam, convince me that those were loans. You know, when you give money to somebody, especially, I can imagine a situation where you are mentality, you want to keep track of how much money you gave to somebody just for your own head. I mean, how many times do I wake up in the morning and I want to know how much money I have in my savings account, in my checking account, and how much money I gave to this church. That particular person has cost me that year. Do you understand? It could just as easily have been that. That's
correct.
$450 according to your mother. He still owes her $400 from this. Now, this piece of paper that it looks as if it's written in the same hand.
That is her writing, yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. But there is also no owes her $400 from this. Now, this piece of paper that it looks as if it's written in the same hand.
That is her writing, yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. But there is also no indication that this was a loan.
Right? That's correct. But if the money wasn't owed, she wouldn't have written it down.
I don't know that. I think that you have a difficult time. 6.
Of which we're still paying the bills for her, yes.
Okay.
His clothing receipts. There were many more receipts that weren't included.
Just a second. I'm looking for her handwriting on here, because I do see one, and it seems to match the handwriting in her book, in her ledger, on this credit card.
There's several Mervyn's receipts for men's clothing, of which are for him.
Well, just a second. You have to understand something, madam. What I just said to you was, there are certain things that clearly your mother had denoted as loans, owes, loans.
And all of this.
And certain things on which there are no notes.
They were all included in that book, though, Your Honor. You know, pinned inside together.
I only see one note of hers.
Right, they were all pinned inside.
Paper clip.
Paper clipped inside.
What?
There were also
What I think she's trying to say is that my mother-in-law was keeping track of the bills and anything she had spent on them, and that what she's trying to say is that those look like they were all incurred as a loan to him.
Looks like is not a loan.
Okay.
Sir. Looks like is not a loan.
Okay.
Telling me?
Yes.
They weren't
clearly,
gifts, Donald.
Miss Flores, don't talk. Miss Flores, don't
That's
talk
what's
to him.
wrong with the elderly, though. That's how they're getting ripped off.
Miss Flores, sometimes you're absolutely right. And sometimes a lady who is 73 years old, living far away from her family, a couple of times a week. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
If she has to pay for some companionship by buying a present, or by giving a shirt, or by buying furniture, unfortunately, that happens. And then when there is a tragedy like this, the family feels as if, guarantee you, she didn't feel as if she was being taken advantage of. She was having a good time. Did your step up here. You went out to dinner and you went gambling with your grandmother and the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Did your grandmother look like she was having a good time?
Sure.
Right. How many times did you go gambling with your grandmother?
Every time I went up there.
Well, how often was that?
Once every couple months. Whenever I made it up to Vegas, I'd go.
So once every couple of months, you took Grandma out for a spin.
Yes,
How many times did you go gambling with Grandma?
Usually once a week.
I took Grandma. Grandma didn't take me.
Just a thing. It's her money.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
As you can see, she started out with $35,000 in the bank. 2 years later, she depleted her savings.
You make me nauseous. If this camera went on, I swear to God, my dad would knock out. I swear to God.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Neilani Flores is suing her late mother's hairdresser, Donald Smith, claiming he swindled her out of thousands of dollars before she died.
You're not responsible for your mother's debts. You know darn well that you're not under the law. So if you have to pay out any money for her, it's being paid out of her money.
What money? There's no money left.
Then if there's no money left, madam, then you don't have to pay anymore because children and grandchildren are not liable for the debts of their parents. I'm certain that your lawyer told you that. This is her money. If she wants to go gambling with him and give him money 5 nights a week because that makes her happy, it may not be smart, it may not be preserving her estate, but she's lonely and she's not going to live for every 2 months while when her granddaughter decides to come up and pay her a visit and take her out to dinner and gambling. That doesn't mean he's necessarily a nice person. I'm not even suggesting that to you. And I'm not suggesting that he didn't take advantage of her. He probably did.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
I know, why not?
A lot of people take advantage of the elderly.
That's sad.
Well, it is sad. However, it made her happy.
Why was she paying his rent if he had a job?
It made your grandmother happy. If she didn't want to do it, she wouldn't have done it. She was of sound mind, and if she had to pay for an occasional escort, which is what he was, and he said that they were really good friends. Bull. However, if she had to pay for it so that she had company a couple of times a week, that made her happy. Why are you complaining now?
Because we're paying for his bills.
No, you're not. What do you mean you're paying?
Because in the will it stated my mom is the executor of the will. So any monies be paid out for any of her expenses be paid out of that. So we did that.
What's your first name?
Tammy.
Are you dumb?
No, I'm not.
Well, then let me tell you something. What you're saying to me is I tried to explain it to you. Because your mother is the executrix of your grandmother's will, she does not have to go to her bank account, her personal bank account, and pay 1 sou for your grandmother's debts. The only money that can be used to pay for your grandmother's debts is your grandmother's money, which is not your money, no matter what you think. It is not your money. There may not be anything left for you after you pay the debts, but you 3 people do not have to dig into your own. It was your grandmother's money, and she could do whatever she diddly pleases with it, and it pleased her. It gave her a certain amount of pleasure to sport him around. I don't know why, but it did. Now that I've taken care of that area, now I talk to you. There were certain things clearly here that she indicated you owed her.
Nothing that she gave, it was all gifts.
That's not true. That's clearly not true.
If it was as a loan, there would have been a contract made that I would have signed.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. The 450 was I was in between jobs and she helped me out with the rent. I paid back the first payment of 40, and when I gave her that 40, she looked at me and says, "That's all I wanted to know was that you made the effort." She goes, "Forget about the rest."
Well, but that's not what it says here. That was a loan. Because that's what she is about this furniture. How'd you get the furniture?
That was delivered to me, my understanding, as a housewarming and a birthday present. I moved into a house I'm renting with my companion. It was a month of my birthday also. She wanted to go to a furniture store. She was asking me what I liked.
I can understand buying you...
After I'd moved in, what I had picked...
some clothes. I can understand taking you out to dinner. I can understand even giving you some gambling money when you go out. I don't have a problem with that. They may have a problem with $1,379 for furniture for you and your companion.
That was her choice. It was not asked of her. That's what she wanted to do.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. That doesn't sit right with me. You have 2 men who live together, both employed, and there comes a point where certain things she wants to buy you, some clothes, she wants to take you out for dinner, she wants to make sure she has some company. But then there comes a point when it's sort of sickening. This is sort of sickening.
Why?
Why?
That was her choice. We didn't ask. I didn't ask.
I don't believe you.
Came
Did
across.
you just happen to be home when the furniture was delivered?
No, I was at work. I had to go home. No, I did not know it was going to be delivered that day.
You're full of baloney.
She also paid
Called me and I had to go down.
That didn't answer my question. It's not marked alone.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You're never going to recoup all the money that you gave him. It's not going to happen. But you should have at least some comfort in knowing that your mother had a good time. She did. She had some young people around her that made her feel good. Your mom didn't call an escort service and said, send me somebody to have a good time with. They treated her nicely. They showed her a good time. They probably better than going by herself to a casino. You know that that's true. And they took financial advantage of her. It's been happening for ages. But you don't recoup that. Unless there's some clear indication or some common sense, like with this furniture. Shirts and stuff like... God. Okay. There are certain things that are clearly marked as loans. I'm counting up only those things, and I am including in it the furniture.
Okay.
Because you're sitting on it, you're sleeping on it, you're going to pay for it. And all those things together come to $2,104, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He made her feel like they were friends. The woman never bought herself furniture in 20 years. She turns around and gives this guy $1,700 worth. Not going to happen.
And she sat on it and she slept on it too.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
sure she did.
You are. You are so stupid.
Oh, you know me so well. I never want to see you again, and I wish to God I never saw you in the first place. And now I know why she stayed away from you for so long.
Dad,
Me, Dad?
don't even go there. There will be justice for the elderly that they're constantly preyed on like people like you.
Bocock, step forward, please.
27-year-old receptionist Sandra Bocock is suing her father Bob for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter Jessica.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 2. Sir, have a seat.
Who are you, sir?
Herb Shavers.
You're a lawyer.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure because I've read all of these papers. This is your father.
Yes.
Your mother?
Yes.
Ms. Bocock, according to your complaint, you are suing your father for money that you owe to the state.
Yes.
Came about because several years ago, your daughter, who was quite young, was removed from your care, according to all the papers and documents that I've read, for child support.
Yes.
Quite young, was removed from your care, according to all the papers and documents that I've read, for child support.
Yes.
And that care for about a year, a little less than a year, and then went into your parents' home. Correct?
Reasonably close, yes, ma'am.
How many years was the child with you?
About 6.
And for part of that time, she was with you as a foster child.
Yes, ma'am.
Which meant that you were getting money from the state as a foster parent.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way things work these days, even if you're a grandparent. And then you were told that you had to file for either custody or guardianship of the child, and you consented to your parents having guardianship.
I did not give my parents guardianship. I would never see my daughter again. She would go up for adoption. I would never see her again. I was not given a choice.
Doesn't make much of a difference. There's only one innocent in this case, and that innocent is this child.
True.
Make much of a difference. There's only one innocent in this case, and that innocent is this child.
True.
I mean, you made certain choices. You were told that she would be removed permanently if you let her have any contact with this man. And according to the papers that I read, you let her speak to him on the phone. She was just a little girl, and then you moved back in with him because you had some financial problems.
That's not true.
Well, according to the papers that I've read, Miss Bocock, your little girl was assaulted by this man. She was taken to the hospital. Bruises were noted. You were told at the time that the man had to be out of the house before you could get your daughter back. Correct?
That's correct.
To make a long story short, the child was with you, and there was a period of time when you had guardianship of the child.
Yes, ma'am.
After she had lived with you for several years as a foster child, and you began receiving welfare for her.
AFDC, yes, ma'am.
To the tune of about $2,000. As the rules of the state are, parents are responsible for the support of their children. So the state pursued you for this welfare money.
Correct.
And you say that there was some sort of an arrangement with your father that he would pay this amount.
Yes.
He says that there was not, the amount wasn't paid, your driver's license was suspended, and your credit ruined.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me about the arrangement with your father?
On June 15th, at the last guardianship hearing,
look at me.
He knew that I had received the summons. I was being sued by the state for the welfare money, for the $2,392. He pulled me aside just before the last hearing and said, I will take care of this matter. I know you can't pay for it. I will take care of it. My lawyer at the time was standing right next to me. I'm a student. I'm a mom. I'm struggling. It's very difficult. It's not that I don't want to pay it back, but he promised to take care of it for me as a pledge. I'm nearly completion of my 2-year degree in biology, so I'm very close now, but it's very difficult. I'm financially very strained right now.
So you want to pay the money back because it's your loan.
Right.
It's your debt.
Right, but he promised to take care.
Let me hear your side of this, sir.
Well, ma'am, at no time have I ever said to anyone that I would pay this money either to her or for her. I did have a conversation after one of the guardianship hearings with her lawyer, Mr. Chavers, in which I asked him if he could get me information, a name of the district attorney and a phone number to talk to the person, because if you try and call in the district attorney's office, you get the royal runaround unless you have a case number. Because I had some things I want to discuss with him. What I didn't tell him at the...
Were you taking the money from the state because you needed it for your granddaughter, sir?
No. We could have supported her without it. In fact, most of the period of the guardianship, we didn't even know that we were eligible to receive it. It was a previous caseworker that said that we could receive that money, and in fact, it went for her daycare.
So how long did you have her in your custody without receiving any support?
I would say in there.
Step up, sir.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
I may, at any time during this whole guardianship issue, they knew that they could return my daughter to me with no strings attached. They
Well,
could
Ms.
return
Bocock,
her.
I don't believe that that's absolutely true.
I was absolutely willing to pay every cent to take care of her. I've never had a problem with that. But he promised to pay this amount. He said that he...
A problem. Let me tell you what they are, madam.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My parents are lying, selfish people. I wanted him to honor his word this one time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock is suing her father Bob for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter Jessica. Bob and his wife Barbara claim they looked after the little girl for 6 years and aren't responsible for the money.
If you wanted your daughter back, and you say there was no impediment to you getting your daughter back, and you were no stranger to the family court, I'm not talking about a parakeet.
I understand.
We're talking about a child.
I understand.
You understand that the child was removed from your care for cause by the family court, and the cause was neglect, because they only place children in foster care unless you voluntarily... America, sir, they do not remove children from parents without cause. Is that a fair statement?
Let me say this, that I've been involved in several cases where the issue of cause was at best in question, never substantiated.
That's why you're not the judge. That's why if the judge determines there's cause, a lawyer doesn't second guess them. I don't care what your view of the evidence was. The state cannot remove a child from a parent unless the parent voluntarily places that child or there is cause. So don't give me a lot of baloney. I've been in this business much longer than you have, sir. And that was my specialty. So if it's not yours, it was mine for 25 years. Now, you want to tell me your recollection of the conversation with Mr. Bocock?
There were two distinct and different conversations. One occurred in the hallway of the court following the hearing on June 15th. That conversation was involving Mr. Bocock, his attorney, the attorney for the minor as well, negotiations going back and forth.
Child had a lawyer.
Correct.
Child's always had a lawyer. They're called a law guardian, correct?
That's right, ma'am.
And the child should be returned to the mother. correct?
Not at that point, no. The discussion was
that custody would be given back to Sandy. So all at once we're cold-cocked with this idea that there had been an agreement at the attorney's level that custody would be given back to Sandy. So all at once we're cold-cocked with this idea that we bring Jessica and she takes her home. And we
So
just
you
asked
wanted more of a transition, correct?
It was, except for his comment that it was a surprise to them. Came as quite a surprise to the counsels involved. For we normally work these things out before we appear at court, so the reluctance that was expressed was quite surprising to us.
Well, it's not surprising to me because according to your former client, grandfather of the child, he said what he wanted was a transition so that the child could at least finish. Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
That strikes you as being odd?
The fact
His grandfather, who's had custody of this child for 6 years, says, listen, it's June 15th, school is over June 30th. You know, we need 2 weeks, and aside from the fact she's in school. That strike you as being peculiar, sir?
in view of the facts of the time, the fact that we've been discussing the transition for about 6 to 8 months before then, yes.
It did strike you as being odd.
We've been
That's
working.
odd. Doesn't strike me as being odd to wait 2 weeks until school is over. You have children?
Yes, I do.
Give me a break. All right, so now we're past that. Now we're down to money. Let me hear the conversation about the money.
We had been discussing for months the return of the child to the mother. It was obvious that the grandparents, because of the timing that they had applied for the AFDC payments, was already after the time that we had already discussing returning the child to the mother.
Mm-hmm.
There's not an issue of financial need on behalf of the grandparents. It was a matter of timing. At the hearing, the grandfather stated that he would handle the AFDC payments.
Just a second. What you heard is, I will handle it.
The exact verbiage, I'm unsure. What I recall is handle it or words to that effect.
Okay, so you're not as sure what the words were.
Not
Thank
the
you. You can have a
exact
seat.
word. There was another conversation.
Give me the other conversation.
The other conversation in context. Following the hearing on the 15th, I hand-carried all the court documents from the AFDC payments to Mr. Bocock's attorney the following day, confirmed the fact that Mr. Bocock was willing to handle the AFDC payments. And
confirmed with whom?
Confirmed to his attorney in the letter that I sent.
Just a second. You sent a letter to the attorney.
Correct.
You have a letter from the attorney to you confirming
No,
that?
No, I do not have a letter disputing it either.
He doesn't have to dispute it. You have a letter you sent to him and say, here, your client says...
Received a letter back promptly.
I mean, this is a court, sir. You're a lawyer. You know...
Based on my extensive dealings with his attorney, had that statement been incorrect, I would have received a letter back promptly.
I mean, this is a court, sir. You're a lawyer. You know, you can't rely on that. You sent him a letter. Here, your client said he would take care of this, and he says, what, is he crazy? Takes him and throw in the garbage. You think that he has an obligation to respond to you? He has no legal obligation to respond to you.
But he did, in fact, respond.
How? Let me see.
The response was in the form of a conversation.
That's hearsay.
I understand
with the
that,
attorney.
It's also
Just a
operative
second.
fact.
With the attorney, not with him.
No, I had a conversation with Mr. Bocock.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bocock, not a conversation that you had with an attorney.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record of having beat Jessica?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock says her father should be responsible to pay the state money owed for childcare of her 9-year-old daughter, Jessica. Bob Bocock says he took care of Jessica for 6 years and should not be held responsible for the money.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bocock.
He told me to, if I would get the amount due that he had received, he would pay for that. He would reimburse that amount.
Did you ever say that to him, sir?
No, ma'am, I never did. I have a copy of the letter that I sent to my attorney.
Can I see the copy of the letter
in response
that you
to
sent?
the letter that he had hand-delivered to her.
Let me tell you, I've seen this. I saw this letter. Have you seen this letter?
No, I've not.
Let me show it to you, sir. Evidently, there was some sort of a miscommunication. He said his concern was that they were asking her for more money than the child actually received from AFDC, and that the conversations that he had had with both you and his attorney dealt with the fact that he didn't understand why they were seeking more from his daughter than his granddaughter actually received from the state. All right. Listen to me very carefully, Ms. Bocock. How old are you?
27.
You made a baby, right?
Yes.
You made a baby at a time that you had no right to make a baby, that you weren't prepared to take care of a baby. But for the fact that your parents took your daughter out of foster care and agreed to become foster parents to this child, there is a very strong probability, based on the fact that this child was out of your care, that your social worker was absolutely correct, that the state would have moved in a proceeding to terminate your parental rights and free the child for adoption. There is no question about that. And you are an intelligent young woman. And how long has she been in your care?
2.5 years.
So for the first 7 years of her life, you supported her with nothing.
I gave her love and emotional support, which is more than they gave her.
No. She was in foster care for a year, which means some strangers gave her love and affection. And then she lived with your mother and father, who were up with her during the night, who wiped her nose when she...
Your Honor, yes, I did live there for a couple months.
I'm not talking about a couple of months, madam.
Okay.
How long
Your
did your daughter live with your parents?
I don't remember the exact years. She lived with her for a number of years. But why did I end up pregnant at 17? The emotional and physical abuse in that home is unimaginable.
You better stop blaming other...
bad.
Listen to me. You better stop blaming other people for your life's travails, madam.
I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are. Your father didn't make you pregnant. There are lots of ways to get away from a bad situation. Having a baby is not one of them. There are other avenues. To make a long story short, what the state is now asking you for is $2,000. And they're saying, over the years, the state of California has probably spent $150,000 in foster care payments and administrative fees for your daughter. We're not seeking to recoup that from you now that you're back on your feet. We're seeking to recoup $2,000 from you. That doesn't sound like a lot if you make a baby. $2,000 over 9 years doesn't keep a child in shoes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ms. Bocock, get your act. And you can work out some sort of a system with the state to take care of this $2,000 that you owe them.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have paperwork. Last week, I received papers that they were going to garnish my wages.
Good!
Take my driver's license.
Just a second. Good.
Okay.
They can garnish your wages, and then you know that 10% of your wages are going to go to pay back the obligation. You know that 10% of your wages are going to go to pay back the obligation. Condoning, Mr. Bocock, the fact that you didn't really have a need for the money, and yet you took money from the state to support your grandchild. And I say that because even though the law gives you the right to do that, I always felt as if you didn't have a need for that and this was your blood, you should do it yourself. But between the two of you, you've got to pay for your child. Not him. It's not his obligation. It's your obligation. So, your lawsuit against your father is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
If she were so concerned about the emotional and physical well-being of her daughter, why did she move 450 miles away to be with her boyfriend who had physically abused her daughter?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else. That doesn't take a psychologist.
She's still with him. We don't know why.
That's all I wanted, was him to honor his word for once in his life. He has never made a promise that he's kept. He's broken promises my whole life. That's all I wanted.
Sữa Meiji số 0 dành cho trẻ sơ sinh thì một trong những cái thương hiệu sữa nổi tiếng dành cho giai đoạn trẻ sơ sinh, chúng ta không kể đến sữa Meiji số 0. Sữa Meiji số 0 là một cái loại sữa, là một cái sản phẩm quốc dân, tại Nhật Bản và nhiều quốc gia trên thế giới, trong đó có Việt Nam mình. Chắc chắn có rất là nhiều mẹ bỉm đã và đang cho con mình sử dụng cái loại sữa này. Sữa bổ sung rất là nhiều dưỡng chất cần thiết giúp trẻ phát triển tối ưu trong giai đoạn đầu đời. Đặc biệt, sữa được làm từ các cái nguyên liệu thiên nhiên. Sữa Meiji số 0 đảm bảo an toàn cho sức khỏe của trẻ nhỏ. Đó là về những cái thông tin cơ bản về sữa Meiji. Về thành phần cũng như công dụng của loại sữa này thì chúng ta thấy là trong cái thành phần của sữa Meiji số 0 có chứa DHA, ARA giúp cho bé phát triển trí não và khả năng tư duy. Canxi có trong sữa sẽ giúp phát triển xương, hỗ trợ được phát triển chiều cao tối ưu. Sữa có chứa omega 3, omega 6 và các nhóm vitamin A, B, C, D giúp trẻ tăng cường miễn dịch. Bổ sung được vitamin C giúp tăng cường hấp thu sắt, tăng cường miễn dịch, phòng ngừa các bệnh về da liễu. Bổ sung thành phần FOS giúp bảo vệ các vi khuẩn có lợi trong đường ruột để tiêu hóa thức ăn một cách tốt nhất. Ưu điểm của cái dòng sữa Meiji số 0 phải kể đến đó là sữa có vị gần giống với sữa mẹ, có hương vị thơm mát nên giúp mẹ không bị làm miệng khi cho bé uống. Được mệnh danh là sữa rau vì nó có tính mát và thật được thân thiện với hệ tiêu hóa non trẻ của bé. Có hai dạng, bột 800g và thanh nên mẹ bỉm có thể dễ dàng lựa chọn theo nhu cầu sử dụng. Công thức được nghiên cứu chuyên sâu trong suốt 30 năm dựa trên nhu cầu dinh dưỡng của trẻ. Và so với các loại sữa công thức khác thì sữa Meiji có giá thành tương đối rẻ, phù hợp với rất là nhiều gia đình. Bên cạnh đó thì sữa Meiji số 0 có rất là nhiều nhược điểm bố mẹ nhé. Thứ nhất là sữa có cách pha khác với sữa châu Âu và Việt Nam nên các mẹ mới lần đầu sử dụng thì thường sẽ khá là lung túng. Vậy thì loại sữa nào cũng thế, sữa nào cũng sẽ có nhược ưu và nhược điểm riêng của mình. Con mình phù hợp với loại sữa nào thì bố mẹ sẽ khắc phục cái nhược điểm đó và để gọi là trên những cái ưu điểm vượt trội của sữa thì mình sẽ thấy được rằng là con mình nó có phù hợp hay không, và việc lựa chọn sữa nào thì là theo nhu cầu và sự phát triển của con.